Order of the planning board today. The start of it now at 6:30, and I'll ask for a roll call.
I can never set these things up.
In attendance tonight, we have Gail Ober, Gary Dion, Dave Ouellette, Rich McNeil, Chairman Charlie St. Clair, Amy Levisick, Planning Director Rob Mora, Assistant Director Tyler Carmichael, and I'm Savannah Bernal, the recording secretary.
Okay. Thank you. I look for, by the way, congratulations on, I probably should do other business, but congratulations on your logo you got for a Pumpkin Fest.
Thank you.
I saw you get the award. Did you get the check yet?
Oh, not yet.
Double what I got. Double what I got.
We'll keep working on that. Thank you, Savannah. Okay, we'll do a motion to accept the minutes from the
See this?
previous meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Second, any corrections, anybody?
Did mine.
Any discussion about the minutes? Look for a motion
We got
to
a
You already
accept?
have it?
We got a motion to accept.
in a second.
Do we get a second?
Yep.
You have one?
How did I miss all that? Oh, we did do that. Okay, all in favor, raise your hands, please, and it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're gonna go right into number 6, continued public hearings. So 6.1 is a zoning ordinance amendment. This is for residential accessory uses, basically about the proposed rewrite of the short-term lodging ordinance to provide clearer permitting and special exception process. So do we want to open up public hearing?
So, actually, I have a request from legal. They would like us to table it, and then they would like to schedule a non-meeting with legal counsel at our next planning board meeting at 6 PM to discuss it with you.
Was there anybody here tonight to discuss that in the public? That's great. I have great news for the rest of you. We're gonna go right by that. Yes,
Motion
Gail?
to table.
Motion
Second.
to table, and it's been seconded.
There's no discussion. So we're
Any
on.
discussion?
There
Other
can't
than what
be.
I just said? Okay. Oh, I know that. All right, all in favor, raise your hands. Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move right on to the next one.
I want to meet with the lawyers.
So these are for new public hearings. Okay, this is 7.1, PB 2025-047, 171 Gold Street. This is, applicant is proposing to merge the lots and perform an 8-unit condominium subdivision. Good evening.
I was just waiting for you.
Make a motion to accept the application.
So moved.
Okay, Gail made the motion. Amy
Oh, I
seconding
thought,
it?
well, I'll
Sure.
second her, Amy's mo, however
I
you
saw
want to write
you
it down.
first, it's all set, thank you. So, any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, it's unanimous, we've accepted it. Go ahead.
Just make sure that goes.
Now it's off up front here.
It's gone.
It's gone? Savannah, everything disappeared.
Blackout. So we just got there's just a brand-new system that IT just set up, so we're in this, there it goes.
It's okay, we love those charts, at least I do.
Oh, that's pretty.
So you just have to.
Is that the site?
Yes.
It is, isn't
yeah.
it?
That's
That's
the,
existing
that's
conditions.
the existing conditions.
Existing conditions. It's gonna be a condo after this.
They're asking for a green space variance.
I don't know.
Close it. And exit out of that.
I apologize, everybody, for this delay.
Whatever.
Is it not?
So, not for you, okay, just disappeared again.
Just to be
Oh,
safe,
there it
I
is,
have,
okay.
I brought.
Oh, look, now it's showing up there.
Oh, wow.
It is?
Yep. There it is. Just kidding.
Well, it was there, and now it's gone.
When I shut, oh, you know what? Hold on. I think I gotta extend it or something like that, right?
Oh, yep, that's probably the.
This is where we
Gold Street.
Just kidding.
How about we do this?
There it is.
Perfect.
There we go.
Okay.
Everybody move.
Just leave it shut. Okay, so anyway, this site is
No,
located.
no, if you could introduce yourself.
Okay,
and who you represent, et cetera.
John Roque with Roque Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Pogasville One LLC this evening. This is a site that's located off of Elm Street, Gold Street, and Belvedere. Our site is basically Gold Street and Belvedere. This is an existing, there's an existing duplex on its own lot right now. And there's also, there was an old house and there's some garages that were on the site. The house is, that, out in the middle has been demoed a number of years ago. So what we're proposing now is the redevelopment of the site. There's an existing driveway that comes in off of Gold Street. That's actually a shared driveway for the neighbors in here. And then there's two existing driveways for the duplex that exist right now as well. We're gonna add another driveway to go into these are drive under. This is the look of this is what it's gonna look like from Belvedere Street. So what we have is 3 stories. You have your drive under garages, then your main level and upper level with,
Is that showing on the screen up there, what he just held up?
No.
not this one.
Can you just, show everybody what they're gonna be looking at?
Yeah, here, let me, I can do it. I can flip to that.
Only seems fair.
It's gonna disappear. I'm gonna flip over to that. And if I
Oh,
close
that was
it,
weird.
it'll change.
It must be some setting.
Okay. So the 4 units, down here are this is like the rendering of those 4 units. And then there's two larger units kind of up at the top of the site that are like a duplex unit that are very similar architecture, but the units are much larger than the 4 lower ones. Those will have, everyone has a garage, like these people have garages to the sides, all the other 4 have garage unders. The existing duplex that's gonna get merged in with the site, they'll just have their own outdoor driveways. The site needs, it's serviced by municipal water and sewer. We've been working with DPW and Waterworks, and, here, let me flip it back to the right thing so everybody sees what I'm doing. So the water and sewer all come down, and they're gonna come down into right at the corner of Gold Street and Belvedere. And the city of Laconia needs to do a bunch of work with the sewer and the drainage in this area. So at the same time we're doing our project, the city of Laconia is going to do all the work that they need to do in the corner with the city utilities, like the sewer needs to be upgraded. And they're gonna pull all that stuff out and do all their upgrades right at the same time we're cutting into the street for our connections. So all the work gets done, the streets get paved, and everything's cleaned up.
Get
So
paved with gold.
we've been working, coordinating, making sure all of our utilities come out in just the right place for where the city of Laconia wants their utilities to be after they clean everything up. The site requires a shoreline permit, which we just actually got this afternoon. So we have our shoreline permit already. Even though Belvedere is in between us and the lake, it's still within 250-foot shoreline, so we needed to get a shoreline permit. And that actually turned into our landscape plan. I can show you what that looks like. So Eric Buck with Terrain Land Planning had done the shoreline permit for us, and like I said, we had just got the permit from the state of New Hampshire this afternoon on that. So in terms of approvals that we need. I think it's just like City of Laconia Planning Board approval. We need the shoreline permit. We need to do, maybe a sewer connection permit with the DPW, but I think we're pretty well have it all worked out at this point. I guess if you guys have any questions, that's a overview of the project, of what we've been doing and what it's gonna look like, and, where we're at.
How long out do you think from completion, if this is approved?
Completion?
We're probably looking at about, I can stand it.
Come on up.
Come on up. Mike Locken, Poggers Properties. We're looking to try to start for like July and probably finish 10 months, 12 months.
They all sold?
Are they all sold?
You like to buy one?
Well, I know the market is up and down, so I just
Yeah.
was hoping that you would say yes, they'd all
Yeah,
be sold.
yeah, well, yeah, we haven't even marketed them yet, but I think we are going to do that prior. We're gonna change a little bit up that we normally do, and so I think we're gonna market those and beforehand and see what we get for interest, yeah.
So I see on this, some of the conditions here, they have the usual about, if you have the use of more than 4 trash cans, you'll get a private dumpster and a private service. I hope that, what's the total units?
We have 8.
Eight units.
And we do have a dumpster.
Oh, okay.
Believe me, I could care less about that, but that's between you and the city on that. However, I will encourage you, Mr. Developer, to get at least 4 recycling bins and encourage your owners to use those recycling bins, because you can put those out every other week.
Okay.
And that would be better than, unless you can have a separate dumpster, which I'm sure you won't, for recycling, so maybe you will. But if you don't, then I would take advantage of the 4 that the city will give you,
Okay,
and encourage your, and I'm sure most of them will be happy to do that, to use those 4 for recycling.
now why would they give 4?
Well, it says here they only give you 4,
Okay,
so we'll take the 4
take the 4,
and use that for recycling.
okay.
I strongly hope you do that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any other
Great idea.
questions or comments from anybody else on? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dave.
Could you clarify on the drawing here where the intersection of, I guess it would be North Street would be? North and Belvedere? Doesn't North Street run into
Oh,
Belvedere?
yeah.
Well, north of,
So,
Over this way, right?
yeah. So it's actually off the street. It would be like in
It's way
relation
down
to here, it would be turning and going
All right.
up there.
Great, thank you.
So it's up and around the corner.
Gail, go ahead.
And this is like gonna be what, an 8-unit condo development? And are you gonna have, articles of confederation, or whatever you call it, condo docs?
Condominium
docs.
dock units, yep.
And do we have a requirement that those are on file with us?
Yeah,
Is one of our
Sarah
finished.
Rubery is working on those right now.
Okay, and is there gonna be prohibition or not on short-term rentals? Don't you know?
I don't know.
It'll make all your neighbors happy, I'm sure. You have any neighbors up there?
Well, I'm just asking. I don't, I'm not voicing an opinion now. I just wanna know if you've thought of
Something to
giving that
think
any
about.
thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're just trying to, I mean, I know the powers that be are trying to think about that right now, but yeah, we'll definitely consider that for sure.
Okay, anybody else?
Charlie.
Amy, sorry.
So looking at the design that you have up on the board, it looks like you have a driveway on both sides of those 4 units, but on your current one up in the, well, it was up, in your landscape design, it looked like it's grass. Which one's which? It looks like you have 2 driveways on either side,
No, so here, hold
on the
on.
one that's up on this board here.
Yep. Let me zoom in on the landscape plan. The landscape plan matches. It's just the way they shaded things. They didn't have it as a color version. What they had done is, hold on here.
Yep.
Okay. So if you zoom down in closer,
That works, that's fine.
yeah. So it actually matches what the colorized version is. This area of the site is porous pavement, so their shade was a little bit different on the black and white landscape plan.
I mean the 4 units, yes, but on the left side of them. Do you-
Our left or his left?
Well, it's the
See
same.
these little, I think
So-
what she's talking about, these little green.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That looks like it's driveways.
Yeah, no, we have driveways, and then, we're trying to introduce like little green areas to separate out.
To separate the driveways, kind of make a
Yep.
little.
So there's a driveway on each side?
Ye-
Or,
This is outdoor parking, like you can actually park up above.
okay,
and
so
you
there
can
is a
drive.
driveway on both sides?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You can drive in, you really can't park in front of the garages down below, you have to pull in all the way. But if you wanna park outside, you actually have extra parking up on top, so.
Okay,
Each unit has 3 parking spaces, so we have a little allowance for guest parking as well.
okay.
Outstanding. Outstanding. It is for guests.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, if you guys can have a seat, we'll open this up to a public hearing. And we'll open the public hearing up for this at 6:46. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to, any abutters or anybody that would like to comment on this application? Come on up. Just state your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is David Gilbert. I own the properties at 18 Belvedere Street and 17 Belvedere Street. And I do have some concerns. One of my biggest concerns is there's no setback here at all. And I believe, I looked at a chart, and on the bottom of the chart, it said that when a lot like this abuts a residential lot, which mine is a residential lot, there is to be a 25-foot setback. And I think I see possibly a 4 to 5 foot setback. My other concern is that when they demo the barn, that is there, they're gonna demo that. It looks like they're gonna remove quite a bit of gravel, or whatever you wanna call it, quite a bit of the property. And my concern is making sure that this stone wall, there's a stone wall that goes all the way up to, doesn't show it on here that well, because this is the new one, but on the old one, the stone wall goes right up behind that existing barn that's there. And I believe that stone wall is more of a boundary line. The line is, the stone wall sways a little bit, but the boundary line, if you get up and stand on my pin and look down that line, that wall is really, looks like the boundary line. And my concern is, when they do all this excavation, what's gonna happen to that wall?
So do you feel the wall is split between both properties?
I believe so, yes. I mean, part of it is on my property, some of it is split, and maybe a little bit is on their property.
Okay.
And so that's my concern. And again, my biggest concern is,
The setback.
on the chart that I saw at the bottom, said when a lot like this abuts a residential lot, there is to be a 25-foot setback.
John, do you have a setback there?
Actually, I'll answer it.
Oh, he's going to answer it, okay. Go ahead.
So it's an urban commercial district, and if you look at minimum rear setback, it's note F, and it's only if it's if it was it's for a rear setback. There's no rear setback on this property.
It's for a rear setback?
It's for the rear setback, but because this lot is abutted by a road on 2 sides, there's technically no rear setback. They have 2 fronts and 2 sides.
Per our ordinance.
I disagree with that one, because when I built my house at 18 Belvedere Street, the city of Laconia, and my lot was on 2 streets, they said, that's the rear, and you'll do a 25-foot setback on my house right here. And I did a 25-foot setback.
So you put in a 25 setback, foot setback?
The city made me put in, I have a 25-foot setback from their boundary line when I built my house on 18 Belvedere Street. And they said, that's the back lot. So, I mean, I don't
Your lot was the
understand
back-
that,
excuse
because
me.
my lot abuts Belvedere and also Fairmont Street, so I'm abutting 2 streets.
Okay, but
also.
they said your lot was the back lot, was the back of your lot?
They said the back of my lot was here.
Here, okay.
So I would have to say the back of their lot is here.
I would think.
Do you know when that was done?
Oh, jeez, like 6 years ago, 5 years ago. I built my house.
When you built your house?
Yeah.
So it was done in 2019.
Right around there.
So that would have been right just before we adopted the urban commercial district, which then changed all of the zoning setbacks that was in that area. So,
Hardly seems fair. So,
Yeah, I mean, it hardly, I mean, I'm sitting there now, I'm gonna look at a three-story building 5 feet off my line.
is
You know,
that
I'm
is
just-
that the
I'm just
setback
saying.
you guys have is 5 feet?
It's a little over,
It says 5 feet right here on the,
I think it's like six or, it's off it's off the setback line a little bit.
it says 5 on your drawing.
Yeah, the setback line is 5, and
Yep.
we're inside the,
Inside that. Yeah.
You can be 5 feet from your neighbors.
I show 5
In the
feet
urban
1 inch.
commercial district,
commercial
yes.
district, you can.
Wow.
Yes.
Like I said, it hardly seems fair,
It doesn't seem
just
fair.
saying. Gail, you were gonna say something?
Kat, actually, now that he brought up the setback, be honest with you, I forgot. Oh, I just had a quick question, and I'm sorry, I forgot to ask this of the engineer. Does this have deeded water access?
Okay.
Ye- Yes, they're gonna have,
That was another thing I was gonna mention.
Okay, well, because
Given all the
that means
tax
they're,
liability.
that means there's both.
deeded for I don't know if they have that, that's,
They own this piece of property right here on the river.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that. I totally agree with you. And I've never really liked it when rules and laws change like that. I've never understood that being logical, but I don't know what the planning board or the city can do about that. I don't know.
At this
Mr.
point-
Chair, can I ask this gentleman a question?
David?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you feel better if they gave it a bigger setback?
Oh, absolutely.
Problem is, and I, looking at the map, and I don't know, it means they'd have to push a building down further, and it looks like between the two buildings there, that's the driveway.
The problem is the ordinance permits that, so.
I realize that, but that doesn't stop a neighbor from trying to work with another neighbor.
Sure.
And maybe make it more amendable to the neighbors.
Absolutely.
So, but I don't see room there to do that, is there?
There's no room to do that,
Make a small
unless you
building,
eliminate a building.
Move some parking.
or make a
Speak up, speak up.
Well, I believe that as it looks right here, no, there isn't room. But if you reduce the size of either one unit or unit 1 and 2, we're talking about going from 5 to a 25-foot setback hypothetically. So if you decrease the building, each unit by 10 feet, you now have your 25-foot setback.
yeah, well, it's not a rear setback.
Well, we
Doesn't
can't,
matter, the
we
existing
can't
buildings are still closer.
enforce a rule that's no longer in effect. I get that.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It really comes down to if, new neighbors can work with you on that, and I don't know that that will happen. Perhaps that's something you guys can talk about. I totally feel your pain on that, though, because you're right. And there's a lot to be said about a 25 setback between buildings, quite
Yeah,
frankly.
I mean, when I built my house, I mean, they told me I had to do the setbacks. And it changed from my original plan, it changed it, and I moved it. And
Well, I don't even know
I
if-
understand the rules, I understand the laws, and if the rules are the rules, but I also understand that setbacks make places look nicer, makes the neighborhood look nicer.
They make for better neighbors.
I mean, this is already gonna be a big change to our neighborhood up there. I mean, our whole neighborhood up here is all single-family and duplexes. And now all of a sudden, we're coming in with something really dramatic to our neighborhood.
Dave,
Yeah.
would it help if we put like a row of trees along that
Well,
wall and?
You can
Well,
have
you know,
5 feet.
honestly, I'm just being realistic. I don't think there's room, in fact, you guys are gonna end up taking down those two big maple trees that are there. There's two huge, beautiful maple trees that are right here that, with this plan, you're gonna have to remove those maple trees. So, I mean, I don't see how the few
And what-
trees are really gonna make that much of a difference.
And
Well,
what's
I
your,
mean,
what,
you had said that you're
Yeah.
gonna see this three-story, I'm just trying to help the aesthetic
I
part
know,
of it for
I
you.
know.
So,
What's
no,
your plan
what we
for
were-
the-
What we just
John?
talked about,
what's your plan for the wall?
what we just talked about here is actually like right on the, up on his, on, David's side, putting a row of trees on his property. We'd actually done that, there's a little precedent, we did that with, Lilac Valley, with, Rod Dyer. We planted a whole bunch of trees on his property, so they would never have any issue they would never get cut. And we staggered them and kind of, made it a little block to the Lilac Valley development.
What about the wall?
If it's right on the property line, it does need to be preserved or restored after
We have no
construction's
intention of
done.
touching that.
Well, it'd have to be restored if it accidentally came
There's
down.
some
You have
pretty
no
stout
plan
state
on-
laws,
No, I'm taking the wall.
preservation of stone walls.
What's that?
There's some pretty stout state laws for preservation,
if they
especially
would make- if they set a boundary,
If it's a
he's
deeded
right.
boundary wall. It
That's
is-
why, I'm
Yep.
just asking you, John, you have no plan to mess with the wall, right?
Trying not to, no.
If you do, you'll fix it.
We would restore it we'd build it all right back to where it was, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
So
that-
this building, it's not actually, this building sits down lower than this property, so we're actually gonna be building the foundation into the ground a little bit on this side.
Okay,
So you won't see 3 full stories, you'll see like 2 and a half or 2, that
well,
sort
every
of thing.
bit helps. Okay, I don't know that we can put anything about trees or not, especially on David's property, but if we can, that's great. If not, that's something that sounds like your neighbors are gonna work with.
But, just one other concern that I would have,
Okay,
is in the future, when this property needs maintenance, is 5 feet really enough room for someone to work on that building without coming onto my property?
again, that's something you guys would have to work out. Listen,
Yeah,
I
know.
agree with you on the whole thing, and
Yeah.
and we could probably come up with a whole scenario of
Yeah.
reasons why it should be more
I
than
know.
that.
I realize that.
But which I've done before here, I'm relying on you two guys,
Yeah,
and most of it's gonna be on your new neighbor to work things out and to the best that you can,
Yeah.
and do the best you can,
all right.
okay? Yes, Gail?
Unit 1, and maybe this isn't really for you, Mr. Gilbert, but,
Yep.
John, does Unit 1 have windows on his side? It's an end unit, so I'm wondering
No,
if
no,
the.
hold on.
Yeah, I think it does.
I'm thinking. Well, I'm thinking noise.
That would be that one, right?
Well, I understand that.
Thank you.
There's like 5 windows on that side.
There is, so that'll be the one unit that has windows on that side, other than, yeah,
Yeah,
okay, that was my,
There will be windows on that side.
there will be windows on that side.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
I know,
You know me.
I know,
Gary, you have a question of who?
John Roki.
I know you do.
John, in that boundary area, you said that the unit number 1's gonna be lower down. So are you putting in a retaining wall there?
No,
Because it's not
the
enough
unit
slope.
the unit itself is gonna be the retaining wall. Like the wall is gonna be poured up high on the side of that foundation.
Okay, so the bottom level of that unit then is gonna be partly underground,
Correct.
like a split level would be?
Yeah.
Okay.
But didn't you,
Okay,
on your plan, didn't you show a big retaining wall,
Maybe on one of them.
Yeah, we've been,
right here? I mean, I think this is what I see. There's a line there, and it says install retaining wall. And that retaining wall looks to me like the
Yeah.
retaining wall is gonna go here and all the way down through here, right?
we've been working with the contractor. That's
Yeah.
something that we're trying to eliminate that and have this unit just built into there, so we eliminate that retaining wall. We've been trying to eliminate that as a construction thing, so.
all right, thank you, Dave.
All
And
right.
Dave, if you have anything comes up, make sure you reach out to the planning department. If you have
Sure.
any concerns, if you
Yep.
think something's out of whack,
Absolutely.
okay?
All right, appreciate your time.
No, on the contrary. Did somebody else want to come up? Come on up, sir.
Good evening. My name is Basil Huckabee. I am the property abutter for Gold Street.
Look at us so we can hear you. Speak
I'm
into the
the
mic
property
there.
abutter for Gold Street,
Okay,
and actually, I own the property on Elm Street, which touches it as well, so I've received
Okay.
2 notices from this group. So I guess my first reaction is this is kind of exciting, it's very cool. But I thought it was very population dense, a little too urban dense, in
Speak
terms
into the
of
mic
what
there,
I was
thanks.
seeing there. I thought 6 units seemed to be a bit much in terms of what they're putting on. Could that be a bit backed off? We're losing a lot of green space in terms of how the neighborhood feels. Also, the trees would be missed. They're kind of nice. The very mature maples are on one side. There's some very nice evergreens on the other side. So aside from the milieu of the property, it was kind of nice to see the facade, if you would. But I'm concerned it's a little too population dense for the neighborhood. The other thing I have is the retaining wall that's on that property is also part of the footing for the foundation.
Can you please look at us when you're talking?
Sorry, I just want to
They
talk.
can hear you.
Okay.
You speak
All right,
in the mic.
So the retaining wall for the property is also part of the footing for the foundation for the Gold Street building. So that's something that I wanted to make sure was aware of, taken care of, and if it was messed with, that it was restored to something that was better than it was. And the other than that, any opportunity to evaluate, to improve and upgrade any of the utilities that went to the Gold Street property as part of this, I would like to be part of. And then what I'm looking to do is to minimize any construction interference to the residents of the Gold Street property as we go forth.
That's a fair answer.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. And again, if there are any concerns that come up during this project, if it's to go forward, by all means, please stay in contact with the planning department.
Okay.
All right? Because they're there to take any comments or questions or observations. And again, hopefully, if you have any concerns, you can also reach out to the property owner as this is going on.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was hoping it was gonna
Yeah.
work out.
Absolutely. I agree with you too on the trees. It's the bane, I just took down 2 big pines on my property, or had agreed to it with the neighbors, and I miss them terribly, but sometimes things just work out like that. so.
Yeah. So I just thought it was a little dense in terms of how it was going, and again, just wanted to get a feel for it. It seemed like there was going to be a lot of loss of green space there in terms of, and it seemed rather close to the sidewalk in terms of that 6th unit.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to comment on anything? Okay, seeing, up, just in time.
Wasn't really planning on speaking tonight. Lisa Landry. I've lived on Gold Street, the other end of it, my whole life. And 2 questions that come to mind real quick is, they mentioned that the ongoing sewer project that would be done, I thought that sewer at the end of the road was finished and all paved last year. So I'm confused as to where the sewer needs to get done, and that means the new pavement getting dug up again?
If that's the case, but that would be with Public Works and for them to be dealing with.
And so the city wouldn't pay for that if that had to be done, I assume?
That,
No, so if there's a connection that's required and they just pave the road, then the applicant is responsible for paying a cost associated with intruding back into that asphalt. And then they have to do such a distance to make sure that it lasts and it doesn't create issues in the future. And Public Works manages all that, and they require that they put so much into escrow just for that, to make sure that's managed if they have to.
The second part of that is, my concern is that there's been repeated issues with a pumping station that was put in a few years back at the end of the footbridge, almost right across the street from their project. And so there's been ongoing issues with the grinder burning out, odor issues, and now you're gonna be adding additional 6 units to that. I don't know where it stands with Public Works. Maybe it's all been remedied, and the addition of this direct line into that won't be an issue, but I just would like to hope that Public Work has looked at that, and if upgrades need to be made, that that's looked at before we have another issue with having to do a bypass stack across the footbridge again into the sewer on the other side of the river.
Well, what we're paying for our sewer rates, I can only hope that the sewers are being maintained in an orderly fashion. And if they're not, somebody will bring that to somebody's attention quickly.
Well, I think, but you need to do that on the front end when you're planning a project like that. I
Well,
just wanted to make
anytime,
those
yeah.
points aware. Are you aware of them?
All right.
The other part of it is, as brought up, there is a shoreline connected with that, and on that, there is it one or two docks that they own down there? But I was just wondering about parking for those docks, now that this is changing around. If there is dedicated parking for the docks that are there, or if that was part of the original two-unit place, and if that needs to be addressed or not, I don't know, but I just want to make sure that that's
Well, if there's
something.
only two spaces there, there's only two spaces there.
Well, I don't know where the two spaces are and if they're being accounted for in this planning.
You guys have anything to say about that?
I think people just park along the side of the street. We don't have anybody parking there that, you know, they either park along the street or they park over by that footbridge area,
Okay.
that little area there.
I didn't know as part of a new project with all these pieces getting put together, if that would be a requirement that be taken into consideration with this.
Again, that's something that the planning department can keep an eye on too, or answer.
Okay, would that be done prior to issuing a permit to build, or?
Don't,
So if there's parking slips associated with that other property there, the parking calculation isn't based off of those slips that they might have access to. The parking calculation that we do in the planning department on a development like this is based off of the number of residential units.
Okay.
So when they say that we're gonna do 8 residential units, we look at the parking requirement that's outlaid in the zoning ordinance. And for this one, it's 1.5 spots per unit, and that's how we get to our parking number, that they were required to have so many spots. They're providing, I think, 1 extra spot for each unit, so they are exceeding what our requirement is anyways. So if there's a parking issue there that's associated with that, it should be corrected, since now they have more parking on site. But that, having those slips there wouldn't increase the number of parking spots they would be required to have. Does
Okay.
that make sense? Sometimes I talk a little fast, so.
Well, no, it wasn't the speed, it was just the answer. I didn't quite.
Yep, so,
Well, no, I guess in my mind, if you are looking at a whole complex, right? If say this was a marina, and you're changing the whole outskirts of it, and there's boat slips that you have to provide parking for, because they will be renting the boat slips out like a marina per se.
Yeah, so that's based off the use of the property. So if this was a marina, there would be a different parking calculation, but because the use of this property is gonna be multifamily, the ordinance specifies that parking is dictated by the number of units on the
Okay.
property.
Yep.
So,
Alright.
but, yeah, it would be a different parking calculation if it was used as a marina.
Okay, thank you, that clarifies that. And then just one last thing, having lived on Gold Street my whole life, it saddened me to see that home, the oldest house in Lakeport, torn down, and not restored, and this being built in its place. But that's my opinion, and I look at the city guidance and the planning that goes in and how we look at that for the city as whole. And I think part of the goal is to keep the components of a community together. We don't want to look like every other town. And so Lakeport in itself is a very unique little setting. And it kind of breaks my heart to see the changes that are taking place. A lot of them are wonderful. Scott Everett did a wonderful job on the Opera House, no doubt about it. But I just see a lot of development coming in the next few years, and I'm not sure I see a big plan as to what's going to make Lakeport maintain that sense of community, and that makes me sad.
it's a pain that are felt by, or shared by many of your fellow citizens in Laconia, not restricted just to Lakeport, but citywide.
But what can the city do about that is what
Well,
I'm,
that's for another meeting.
and
but
when can I address that?
Well, you can certainly reach out to your city councilor and then you can come and talk to these guys,
Okay.
and,
So-
they'll give you my phone number too, so you can call
No,
me
I know this
anytime.
isn't the platform from it,
No, no,
but
no,
I
no,
just,
but I,
for
but
it.
we're just touching on it lightly. But reach out to Robert Tyler and ask him for my phone number, and
Okay.
reach out to your city councilor too.
All right, thank you for your
Alright.
time. Whoop.
We're also attempting to do a master plan here very soon. And these are components that we look at when we do a master plan.
How
Yeah.
soon?
How soon? I hope in the next year. So
I didn't mention it for that reason, so anyway.
hopefully very soon.
Okay.
That is part of our plan. And in that process that we develop that master plan, there's charrettes that we're gonna have. And we're gonna invite the public to those things to get their input on all of these aspects. And we will notice that in the paper if and when it happens, if it gets approved this year, because we want everybody's input exactly like you're relaying to us. So we very much welcome that input, and I hope we will get there very soon.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I make a ruling as a chair of this board?
You want me to stop
My
talking?
ruling is that we do not mention charrettes for anything. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Yes.
Come on up.
Hi, I'm Hazel Zimmer. I've lived here 50 years, actually. But taking down 2 trees is very expensive. I'm having to take 1 tree down. It's costing me $2,500 a tree.
Is that it? Is that the testimony? Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Jean Durfee, and I live at 95 Gold Street. And I've lived there about 25 years now, and I'm on the other side of the bridge. And my concern is the housing that's being built, is it housing that is affordable or affordable for a median income family? Or is it going to be second home condos for out-of-staters?
I think our intent is to have a primary residence for somebody.
Okay,
I don't
excuse
think
me,
it- I don't think
excuse me.
it's-
If you're gonna answer, you gotta come up so everybody can hear you.
I think our intention is to have primary residence on that, for these particular ones. You know, I obviously can't help if a person with a second home wants to buy it, but we're trying to make these, I mean, I love to use the word affordable. I don't know what affordable is these days, but we're trying to just make some housing, really nice housing in that area. And hopefully, it won't be astronomically high, it'll be fair market value, and families can live there and raise a family, you know?
Okay.
That's our intention.
Yes, I guess I am concerned as well with the number of units that are on that property. I don't know what the acreage size is, but for that area of Lakeport, again, one of the other people had spoken that a lot of it is single or duplex, and now we're having a whole new look put into that corner of Gold Street. And I also wonder a little bit about just the increased traffic right there on that corner and the safety of that, and if there'll be any concerns with how the cars are parked in the garage and them getting in and out of the parking areas. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment at 7:14. Now I will turn to the staff. You've had a few more thoughts put into the process.
Sure.
Questions. So, do we have any questions for the staff before they give us their rundown? Any direct questions?
I'll wait until I finish their
Okay,
presentation.
go ahead then.
So, for the findings of fact, the application and subdivision plans are complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations. The application and site plans were reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its March 18th, 2025 meeting. The applicant agreed to revise its site plans and attend another TRC meeting for further review. The revised site plans were reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its April 15th, 2025 meeting. Their comments have been incorporated in the recommended conditions of approval, which are: for pre-construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be completed at least 2 weeks prior to commencing any work on site. Plans must be revised and submitted to the planning department to include the following: remove the lot lines and map block lot unit references for the unrecorded February 24th, 2023 subdivision. Correct the map map block lot unit number on sheets 3 and 4 in note 2. The existing conditions plan must be updated to remove the demolished building at 171 Gold Street. A note must be added stating both parcels will be merged upon recording of the Mylar, and details for water service transitions, including the location, size, and material of the pipe changes must be included as well. For site security, the applicant must submit one of the following performance guarantees for site improvement and restoration security, including but not limited to street work, utility installations, landscaping, and final pavement to the planning department. The first option is either cash or check in an amount equal to 11% of the total estimated cost for all site work to be placed into escrow and returned to the applicant upon completion of the project, or the other option is a performance bond in an amount equal to the total estimated cost for all site work with the city as the obligee. Condominium documents must be submitted to the planning department for review and approval. These documents must reflect that the association will be responsible for the water service beginning at the water main valve, and individual units will be responsible for their service from the curb stop in. Additionally, fire services will need to be included in these documents as well. These documents must be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense. Both parcels must be owned by the same entity prior to final approval and recording of the Mylar. Floor plan for each unit must be provided to the planning and assessing departments. The addresses for all units must be updated by the Department of Public Works to ensure compliance with RSA 231, 133, and 133-A. A 911 addressing plan must be submitted to the planning department for review and approval. The applicant must possess all required permits and approvals granted by federal, state, and municipal boards or agencies. All permits and approvals must be in place prior to the signing and recording of the final plans in Mylar. Should any permit or approval be revoked at any time during the project, all work must cease until a new permit or approval is obtained. Copies of all permits and approvals must be provided by the applicant to the planning department. 4 final plan sets and a Mylar plan must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department. The Mylar plan and notice of action must be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense. Erosion controls must be in place and inspected and approved by the planning department. The planning department will perform regular inspections to ensure erosion controls are installed and maintained correctly. Pre-construction meeting must be held between the developer and representatives from the Departments of Public Works, Planning, Fire, Police, and Water. Unless otherwise specified, all escrow checks must be received by the respective departments no later than 1 week following the pre-construction meeting. All other requirements in this section must be completed prior to the conducting of the pre-construction meeting. For construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be met during the construction of the project. All specifications for municipal water service as required by the Water Department apply to all construction. The Water Department must inspect all work on water lines. The applicant must adhere to all specifications as required by the Laconia Fire Department. The applicant must coordinate all work within the public right-of-way with the Department of Public Works to include all public sidewalks. Any and all damage to pavement within the public right-of-way must be repaired in accordance with DPW standards. Sidewalks must be constructed in accordance with DPW standards. Stamped pavement for sidewalks is not permitted. The location of any and all stormwater treatment devices must be approved by the Department of Public Works. Private trash service will be required if more than 4 trash cans or a dumpster are used. If a dumpster is used, it must be screened from view on all sides. A maintenance and replacement plan for all pervious pavement must be submitted to the planning department and approved by the Department of Public Works. The required number of parking spaces must be delineated by paint, sign, or other method as approved by the Laconia Planning Department. For the post-construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be met prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy. Impact fees in the amount of $3,481.37 per new unit must be paid to the planning department in accordance with RSA 674-39. The applicant is exempt from any changes to impact fee rates for 5 years from the approval date. Should the project not be completed during the exemption period, the applicant must pay any and all increases to impact fees regardless of vestment status. An as-built design, application, and fee for each dwelling unit must be submitted to the planning department for review and approval. And finally here, the completion date. The project and all associated conditions must be completed by no later than May 6, 2030. If all conditions are not met, nor any extension application filed with the Laconia Planning Department by the completion date, this approval will be null and void. And I do believe there was a couple other conditions you guys had discussed, which are the stone wall along the property line with parcel 350-21-3.1 must remain in place or be restored in kind if damaged during construction. The applicant must also minimize construction disturbance to all abutters. And a vegetative buffer must be installed along the perimeter of the property as mutually agreed upon by both of the abutters.
The property between, on the, not back, but the back.
Yes.
We
Yes.
included both.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I have.
Any questions now for the staff? Gary, you said you had something?
Yes, please. Were there comments from fire department about access or DPW on drainage?
DPW did not have any concerns with the drainage. Fire department also did not make any notes of the access.
Nope.
Give me a second here, and I can pull up their comments from the TRC meeting.
While you're looking that up, perhaps you could tell me what the green space ratio is on this?
What the requirement is or what the ratio is? For the requirement, that I can find real quick here. And for what they're proposing, I might have to call the applicant up for a quicker response for you. So in the urban commercial for residential use, their minimum green space area required is 10%.
Okay.
And then let me see here.
It looks like it probably meets that.
It does, it's scattered, but it probably does.
I believe they're also using permeable,
I saw
Yes.
some
Porous
about
asphalt.
permeable pavement.
I would have to take a deeper look here.
Is this something that we can get later, or you need this right now?
Yeah, if I'm gonna vote.
Okay, well then,
25.8% green space.
All right. And lastly, what was the parking count? I thought John Roke's presentation said that units 3 through 6 were gonna park under, and yet I see 4 more spaces outside the building.
in the back?
Well, both sides in the driveway. Maybe that's I mean, I see a lot of cars here.
Well, he said he had up to three parking spaces per unit.
It looks like it exceeds that. On the drawing, it looks like Lowe's here.
So they need 12 parking spaces based off of their
Okay,
proposed units,
yeah.
and they
Well,
have
they certainly
exceed that, yeah.
I was concerned about an oversupply of parking.
Gotcha.
So I have the fire department's comments here from the last TRC. They had buildings fall under 1 and 2 family homes, chapter NFPA 101. Must meet requirements of 1 and 2 family home chapter. No fire alarm system required, no sprinkler system required. Driveway grid meets NFPA 1 department access requirements. And hydrant located on Gold Street meets water supply requirements. And, give me a second, I'll get DPW. For some reason, my hold on. My TRC folder seems to have.
Why I was asking Rob is to be sure that both fire engines and ambulances could reach units 1 and 2 along that driveway.
Yes, fire department did not have any.
Entrance .5, they didn't.
They didn't have any comments regarding that, no.
I hope not. I mean, I hope they're doing all that before they get here. One would hope. Okay, any other questions of the staff? Counselor Cheney?
For some reason, the
I,
not picking up anything anymore.
I don't think this relates specifically to this developer, but it reflects my concerns in the area, and that is, we keep adding development, and I don't know how much water crosses Elm. I know we changed it in the last year or so, but shortly we're gonna have, I think, state school gobbling up some of our water. Are we sure that we have capacity?
Yes, and when we talk about the state school development, they are upgrading the water lines to create a whole loop that goes all the way up. Oops, sorry. So water will definitely not be an issue for the state school. They'll have
Yeah.
plenty of volume.
And the water department was not concerned about capacity overall for the city.
No.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on this unless there's some more questions or discussion, which we can do after we have a motion. Motion to accept or deny?
Approve or deny.
A motion to approve or deny? Thank you. Anybody want to make a motion? You want more time to think about it?
I move to approve application PB 2025-047 for 171 Gold Street and 12 Belvedere Street with the conditions of approval and findings of fact as presented in the staff report.
Thank you, Amy. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, it's been, any more discussion? We heard some good comments from the public tonight, for sure, and questions. No more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hands. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 in affirmative, all opposed?
I'm gonna be a no vote. I'm
We
gonna
have,
abstain.
we have one opposed, abstention. Gail, are you abstaining?
Yep.
Okay, one abstention. You got that? Okay, well, thank you all, and I hope, again, I urge all the neighbors to work together as best you can, so this doesn't come back to us.
Thank you very much for your time.
Good luck.
I mean, I have to vote for it.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to 7.2, PB 2025-052, 30 Waterford Place,
This is a good
257-371-1. Applicant is proposing to amend their site plan to add an additional story to the yet-be-completed buildings. Give us your name and address, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Chairman, my name is Craig Bailey, engineer, and,
Oh, we have to accept this.
go
I
ahead.
always forget that, because I just think everything's accepting. I have a motion to accept the
Make a motion
application.
to accept application, PB 2025-052 is complete.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, but seconded by Amy. All in favor, please raise your hands. It's unanimous. All right, thank you. I apologize for that slip. Go ahead, sir.
It's okay. Thank you very much. I'm just trying to get the display to work here. Okay, oh, here it is.
It's a new system.
It is a new system.
Oh, I
Well,
have-
go ahead, do the best you can there. Okay, you
We
got it
didn't
there?
get tutorials, did we?
As mentioned, this is an amended site plan for the Waterford Place. I'm gonna get the PDF up here in a second. Oh, it's not showing. Nothing.
Oh, there it
Oh,
goes.
there it is. Okay. Very good. All right, very good. You can see that, I presume? Like I said, this is an amendment to an existing site plan. The site is a 24-hour storage unit facility. The previous owner has constructed Building A, Building B, and Building D on your site plans. And the current applicant is proposing to construct Building C and Building E in accordance with the previously approved site plan, with the one exception that Building C and E become two-story buildings. So this entails no additional coverage, no additional pavement, no additional anything except for the extra 2 stories, on the extra story on Building C and the extra story on Building E. We have met with the TRC. I have a few technical items that I have to address. For example, we need the architect has to include verbiage that the second story be sprinkled, fire alarm for a third party, and we need to show the proposed heights of the buildings. So those are the two technical issues that we find at TRC. Other than that, it's a fairly straightforward amendment to an existing site plan.
Okay. Any questions?
Well, you don't anticipate these buildings being over 65 feet tall, do you? Or, I'm sorry, is it 65 or 35 for commercial or industrial zone?
For this zone, it was 35.
35? Oh, that's right, it's an airport zone.
No, definitely not.
Oh, okay, all right, not a problem.
Anybody else? Okay, stand by.
No, Amy.
Oh, Don, Amy, you gotta just
I'm
reach out.
literally,
No, that's not good enough. You gotta reach
okay,
out.
sorry.
Speak up.
I was just curious what the second floor is gonna be used for. Is it storage as well?
More storage.
Beautiful, thank you.
No apartments.
No apartments.
Apartments. Okay, thank you, if you can stand by. We'll open up the public hearing on this at 7:31. Are there any abutters or anybody else in the audience who would like to comment on this application? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:32. Thank you. Staff?
So for the findings of fact, the application and subdivision plans, or site plans are complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations. The planning board previously approved a commercial site plan and wetland buffer conditional use permit at its meeting on January 4th, 2022. The application and site plans were reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its April 15th, 2025 meeting. Their comments have been incorporated in the recommended conditions of approval, which are: for pre-construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be completed at least 2 weeks prior to commencing any work on site. Plans must be revised and submitted to the planning department to include the following: amended plans to include new proposed heights of the buildings, and correct all documents and plans to reflect the correct parcel identification number to 257-371-1. The applicant must possess all required permits and approvals granted by federal, state, and municipal boards or agencies. All permits and approvals must be in place prior to the signing and recording of the final plans in Mylar. Should any permit or approval be revoked at any time during the project, all work must cease until a new permit or approval is obtained. Copies of all permits and approvals must be provided by the applicant to the planning department. 4 final plan sets must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department. For construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be met during the construction of the project. The applicant must adhere to all specifications as required by the Laconia Fire Department. A fire alarm system must be installed in accordance with current New Hampshire State Fire Code and city ordinances and must be monitored by a third party. For post-construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be met prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy. Impact fees in the amount of 48 cents per square foot of new floor space must be paid to the planning department. In accordance with RSA 674-39, the applicant is exempt from any changes to impact fee rates for 5 years from the approval date. Should the project not be completed during the exemption period, the applicant must pay any and all increases to impact fees regardless of vestment status. And an as-built design application and fee for each completed building must be submitted to the planning department for review and approval. The project and all associated conditions must be completed by no later than May 6, 2030. If all conditions are not met, nor any extension application filed with the Laconia Planning Department by the completion date, this approval will be null and void, and all prior conditions from the January 4th, 2022 Planning Board approval, which are not altered by this approval, shall remain in effect.
Thank you.
No problem. Anytime.
Any questions from anybody? Well, look for a motion to,
I'll move to accept application PB 2025052 for 30 Waterford with the conditions of approval and findings of fact. I'm moving to approve it as presented in the staff report.
a second?
I second.
Okay, we got a second there. Any more discussion? Questions? All in favor, raise your hands. It's unanimous, 6. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good luck. Well, that was encouragingly quick. Okay, now we're gonna go to 7.3 PB 2025-053 77-97 New Salem Street, 433-167-4, 5, and 6. Applicant is proposing to construct 48 multifamily townhouses. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Not for
I
this
gotta
waiver.
accept it, though.
You
Yes.
do.
But I always wanna say good evening,
yes.
get them excited over.
Sorry. Yes.
I'm happy to say good evening.
Good evening. Okay, so I'll look for a motion to accept the application.
Before we
We
do
have a
that, Mr.
waiver?
Chairman, there is a request for a waiver for,
We have to
Drainage
work,
and
we have to do
watershed.
that before the exception?
correct.
Yep.
Okay. So what's the waiver?
They are looking to request a waiver from section Roman numeral 5B, which is application submittal requirements, and they're requesting to not include a drainage and watershed analysis with the application.
Would you like an explanation for that?
Please.
Yeah.
I certainly would.
Okay, so we're actually increasing the amount of green space that's associated with this property, going from 24, almost 25% green space to 38% green space under this new plan. And so it actually has less impact on drainage than it would otherwise, and that's why we're asking for the waiver, because the impervious surface is actually being reduced.
Okay. Did I get an explanation on the other waiver? Or was that the only waiver there was?
Nope, that's the only waiver.
Okay.
There's
Well,
another waiver,
well-
but that waiver is
Correct.
not for the site plan and subdivision regulations.
I see.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking.
Any comments or questions on that? I'll take a motion to approve or deny.
The waiver? Oh, I make a motion to approve the waiver as requested for, I'm looking for the number here.
PB 2025-053.
That one, yeah, PB 2025 dash,
053.
Is there a second?
053.
Okay, it's been second. Any more discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your hands. It's 6 in the affirmative. Okay, no opposition. Okay, we got by that one.
Now you need to vote to accept it as
Thank
complete.
you. I need all the instruction I can get. All right, so is there a motion to accept the application?
So moved as complete. I'll move
By
to
Gail,
accept this
okay.
application as
Is
complete.
there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Amy. All in favor, raise your hands. Okay, we can move on. That was unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ethan Wood with Normandin, Chaney and O'Neill here on behalf of the applicant, K&M Holdings. And with me today is the principal there, Kevin Morissette, as well as our engineer from Du Bois and King, Peter Howard. And certainly any of the technical questions that you may have, Peter may be better able to answer them, but with regard to the plan itself, what we are doing is, first of all, going low-tech. So we have the actual drawings here. The drawing that's the furthest away from me was the existing conditions of the 3 different parcels that are part of this property. And on those parcels, there were a number of existing commercial buildings and storage areas. Those have been removed, and what we're proposing is the building of 8 3-story, 6-unit per building apartment buildings with 2 garages. And this has been a change from some of the earlier plans that we discussed in conceptual review. And part of that change was to make sure that the sight lines were not impacted and remained. And so what we've done is moved the buildings away. It's allowed us to increase to 48 total units, and ultimately otherwise complies with your site plan regulations. There are a couple of things to note. In TRC, there was obviously a concern with regard to water and sprinkling, and those issues have been addressed. We do show the dumpster on the property. We show snow removal. We've got plans showing what the buildings will look like. And ultimately, the traffic study has also been conducted with regard to this. And based on the previous use versus this proposed use, this is gonna be an decrease in the actual traffic along New Salem Street. According to,
A decrease?
that's correct.
According to what?
According to, yeah.
Was that according to a traffic study?
Yes.
Which goes to what I usually think of traffic studies. Okay, go ahead.
Well,
Makes no
again,
sense. I mean, it's
so
just ridiculous.
the actual trip generation, based on the 3 different prior entities, generated a weekday trip number of 694. Based on this, it's a decrease of 305, and it's actually slightly different than that based on the change in the plan. It's about 337.
I see their argument. I don't agree with it, but okay, that's good.
Well, again, I can only follow
I understand, I
the
understand.
rules as they're set forth.
Okay. Thank you.
So, that's the primary thing here. And again, we're looking to start construction sooner rather than later. These will be apartments. But any questions that you have specifically with related,
So they're sprinkled, right, on the top?
they are sprinkled.
The whole building or just the tops?
The whole building.
Whole building. And there's no elevators, correct?
No elevators.
2 floors?
3.
3. I just have one question. You indicated there would be a dumpster?
There is.
Okay, I'm just making a statement. I live in a unit with 24, building with 24 units downtown, and we have 1 dumpster. I would recommend you put in 2. 1 dumpster is not allowed.
I believe they sized it for 2 dumpsters.
Oh, okay, then that was my only statement on this, is that I don't think 1 dumpster is going to be enough with usually they schedule a 1 weekly pickup. So if you've built it in to have 2 dumpsters, then that's great. Because I'm just saying dumpster space gets tight in 24 units. I don't imagine,
Is there a maintenance company that oversees the overall maintenance of the property? Or is that something that's assigned to a particular tenant as far as trash pickup out on the?
Well, ultimately, the entity that is running the apartments will have to have that property maintenance performed. So again, the end result is whoever owns this property at the end, whether it's my client or someone else, will end up needing to hire someone to perform the property maintenance.
So I hope that the current developer, as I said earlier tonight, grabs 4 recycling bins, because I'm sure they're not gonna have a 3rd dumpster for recycling, and perhaps some of the tenants will feel obligated to use those bins for recycling.
I will certainly make sure that I address that with him.
I appreciate that. I mean, everybody has to do their thing, their part, so to speak.
Sure.
So, all right. Gail?
You noted that this is 3 stories, no elevators.
That's correct.
So will there be any handicap accessible units in this on the ground floor?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
In fact,
Can you just briefly touch on that?
this building right here,
Yep.
as you can see, has ground floor handicap accessible units. It has handicap accessible parking right outside it. In addition to that, there are 2 other handicap parking spaces that are delineated on the plan. So the plan is to certainly have ADA compliant units.
Okay, and is there any, is this solely contractor funded, or do you have any federal funding proposed for this, or at this point in time?
We have no federal funding proposed for this at this
State
time.
funding or any government funding, I guess, for lack of a better word?
There is no funding from governmental entities at
Okay,
this
so
time.
this will be market rate housing.
That is correct. It'll be market rate. These are 2-bedroom, 1-bath units. They're just over 1,000 square feet. So the expectation that we would have is that they would be affordable for many people that may not otherwise find apartments to be affordable. But we are not proposing at this time that they be workforce housing under the statute.
Okay, but you did use the word affordable, and that's a
Well, again,
loosely
so,
defined term, but that's okay. I just wanted to know that there was gonna be some accommodation on some floor or in some building for handicap accessible people
correct.
and stuff like that. And that may be codified, and I don't know that on new construction. That, is there a percentage set aside for that on a?
For ADA, so Wes Anderson, the Director of Public Works, he's our ADA compliance officer.
Right.
For all these projects that come in, he reviews them to ensure that they're compliant with ADA.
Okay, all right. You know, that's really my only big concern in that is we have something that is accessible.
We do also adjust like the number of parking spaces, like Attorney Wood relayed. We have that outlined in the zoning ordinance, so they have to be ADA, so many van accessible spots and how many.
Yeah, I knew that,
Stuff
but-
of the number of parking spots they have.
Okay.
Well, since you mentioned affordable, and you mentioned it, I didn't mention it, you mentioned
It got brought up, and I said.
Brought
there-
it up. It's in your application. We didn't write that
But
word.
no, he just brought it up right now, verbally, if I
just
can,
wanna
if I may.
clarify.
So you
Yep.
mentioned that, and then you kind of talked about workforce. Has there been any thought to that?
Well, so, under the statute, the benefit to applying for workforce housing is that it's supposed to require that the municipality ease certain zoning restrictions that may prevent the development of housing in this area based on cost, density, et cetera. And so that's not really an issue here. The plan is to again, have relatively small units, so we're,
So these are small, considered to be small units?
well, they're 1,000 square feet, just over 1,000 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bath units. They're not,
2 bedrooms, 1 bath, 1 living room, 1 dining room?
correct, correct.
So a separate living
Yeah,
room,
in
a
fact,
separate dining room?
we have a site plan, or not a site plan, a floor plan. These are similar to the units that my client built in 50 Church Street.
Okay. Well, I'm asking because, there's obviously a need for, a lot of people want to live in Laconia and work here. It's just tough if they can't afford to do it, so we're looking. And I'm sure this property, for the current owner, future owners, that's all stuff that, can work out. And we got the development up there on Union Avenue that did this, and, which is pretty good. I can't remember how many units we've got deeded to be workforce or affordable housing for, I think it's 35 years, so
And that was 12 units on that piece.
12 units on that, 12 units out of the,
60.
out of
60.
the,
It was 1/5, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
something like that.
Yep.
So it'd be nice
20%.
if, maybe we could just talk about or think about maybe 4 or 5 units, something like that, under that term.
We're
That's all.
happy to talk, we're happy to think. If that's an important criteria,
Yeah.
we're happy to have discussions. Generally speaking, if you're going to require it, then clearly there's going to need to be some sort of compensation that my client receives in that regard, because he's giving up a right that he would have. So,
Giving up
because
some money. It's all about money, and I get that, because it will cost. If you have suppressed rent for whatever label you want to put on it, there's a cost for that, and I understand that. So, but I think it is worth a discussion. I don't necessarily think that maybe we do it tonight or not, but it's just something to think about.
So
If it's possible. If your client says it's possible to talk about, go ahead, Rob.
I think that for the workforce housing component, it should be, at this point, up to the developer and the applicant if that's something they wanted to pursue. I think that this board had evaluated adding a requirement such as that when we did a housing champion program, which ultimately did not make it through city council. But the enabling regulation was in that document that did not make it any further. So I would say that if that's something that we want to pursue and a requirement that we would want to put on developers to push something like that forward, we need to adopt it into the ordinance, and we have not done that at this point.
It's a big development.
I like it. It's needed.
Well, it certainly is needed, and
You
this
know?
is a big development. This isn't like, 2 condos or even 5 condos. This is a big one. All right, well, we'll move along and see what develops here.
I would note, Mr. Chair, that the last time, or the prior 2 times that my client developed a number of the last 2 apartment buildings he developed in the city of Laconia, at least with one of them, there was a requirement from the city that they not be subsidized housing.
That was then and this is now.
Oh, I understand that, but, so,
Well, this isn't subsidized housing.
This isn't subsidized housing.
correct. But again, you're looking for a reduced rent other than market rate, and we think the market rate would likely permit the people who are workforce to live there.
The market rates have gone out of control. That's not just my opinion, that's the opinion right across the board. I'm not putting it, it's expensive to develop property, it's very expensive, there's a lot of money being thrown into it, but it doesn't do us any good if nobody can afford to live there. And you end up getting somebody in there that's just gonna sublet it or do whatever they do. But we don't need to have that discussion now. I just wanted to bring that up, and I appreciate the feedback from you on that. Any other questions for the,
Specifically to this matter in front of us right now, at this moment, no.
any other questions? Okay, stand by and we'll open this up to public comment. It's 7:52. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to discuss this development? I see somebody here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the Planning Board. Andrew Hosmer, Ward 3, 609 Main Street, Unit 301. I strongly encourage this Planning Board to consider the importance and the desperate need in this city for workforce housing. As you probably all know and are quite aware, the vacancy rate has hovered around 0% for an extended period of time. That's for market rate as well as anything that might be considered either workforce or otherwise. A healthy market has 5% vacancy rate. We're nowhere near that right now. Though the term was, and I appreciate Attorney Wood's advocacy on behalf of his client, the term affordable was used by him. Now keep in mind, affordable housing, just because it's a reduced footprint of each unit, that doesn't make it affordable. And I would caution you in your expertise to look at that very closely. Workforce housing means you take into consideration the average market income, median income, in this area. And then it's based on a percentage of that income, and rents are targeted within that percentage. Could be 60% of AMI up to 110 or 120% of AMI. Where average median income in this area right now, by my last time I looked, is probably somewhere just under $70,000. So with 2-bedroom units available for rental in this city, approaching $2,000 or thereabouts, plus utilities on top of that and any insurance someone might carry. That, in my mind, far exceeds the 30 or 40% of net income someone may make. It makes their housing significantly unstable when they're paying out so much just to keep a roof over their head or over their family's head, and that's what I would suggest might happen with a 2-bedroom here. We desperately need housing for the men and women that work in this area, and many of you have heard me say this before. Our teachers that start out at somewhere in the mid $40,000 range. Our firefighters and police officers that, depending on overtime and depending on their training and their certifications, are maybe $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 per year. One time that was considered a pretty healthy introductory entry-level salary. Because of the cost of housing, never mind overall inflation and the potential effect of tariffs, that isn't as much as it once was, and we've tried desperately at the City Council to make sure that the salaries can match demand and the market rate for our professionals here. I also asked you to consider our largest employer in the city, which is our hospital. That's almost 1,000 employees there. It's not just doctors and RNs making above average wages, but it's also our LNAs. It's the men and women that clean, that work in the cafeteria. You know, the less opportunity for those men and women making those wages, including public employees, the less opportunity for them to find housing that is proximate to where they work, that is year-round, that is housing with dignity. I suggest to you the less likely it is they stay in this area and destabilize not only our largest employer, which is, as we know, come a long ways, but still probably hanging on by a thread. We've also done an analysis of how far away some of our city employees are living right now. And when you look at the area across the state that our firefighters and police officers are traveling to work in the city, they're getting farther and farther away, which leads me to believe that one of our greatest assets in the city is our fire department and our police department. We hire people, we train them well. It's a fairly active department in both areas. Then, if they're traveling extended distances to get here to work in the city, we run the risk of losing these men and women that mean so much to our community. That means all the investment dollars that went into training them, which is years. We run the risk of losing those folks. That's why I think it's important that we think on a policy perspective, or take a policy perspective that says, let's keep them closer to our community. And if we have a chance to keep them to grow roots in our community, to buy in Laconia, to rent in Laconia, to raise a family, to spend their discretionary income in Laconia, we should do everything we can to make that happening. I will agree with the chair. On Union Avenue, it was 60 units and 12 units were set aside for their workforce. At the behest of Councilor Cheney, which I greatly appreciate, that's a restricted deed for 30 years, if I'm not mistaken, which means, you know, 9 of those units are for the employees of the company that is building those units, but also 3 of them are for city employees. I'm not saying that should be go into our city ordinances necessarily, but I am saying it set a good precedent here that developers who understand the needs of our community will respond accordingly. And certainly there are very few levers in the city, but they are significant when it comes to perhaps quid pro quo, if you can. You know, I understand this is a business investment, and I respect that. And there are certain things we can do in this city, but I think that we should only use those levers when we have developers who understand and respond to the challenges we have in the city. And right now, it's truly workforce housing. So I belabored the point, but I appreciate you taking time to listen. Thank you.
Is this something that, being that you're the mayor of the council, is this something that the council is going to look at in the future? I know Rob mentioned something that didn't get passed. I mean, is this something that the council is going to be able to maybe steer along, or is it even possible?
Thank you for the question. I think it is possible, and there are some communities that put restrictions, right, on developers. Developments over a certain number of units may be required. That's part of the deal to build in a particular municipality. Are we there? I'm not sure, but either we're going to do something about workforce housing right now and not just let it all be market rate housing, or we're going to find ourselves 5 or 10 or 15 years down the road and we've lost our workforce because there's no place to live. And it destabilizes what I consider to be the backbone of our city, which is our public employees, from DPW to fire to police department to teachers. And that's concerning.
Or just people working regular jobs.
Yeah,
Just people working regular jobs, absolutely. And we know this is an area that's dominated by seasonal work with fewer benefits. We are an aging population. I think something great about the New Salem project is that you can take workforce and blend it into market rate, so it doesn't necessarily stand out as distinctive workforce housing. We all know that sometimes that gets branded. You know, these descriptive terms around housing sometimes taint the discussion, but when you can mix it in that way, I know there's a cost to the developer, but it also allows people to live with not in a segregated community necessarily, and I think there's positivity to that.
Okay, any questions? Anybody?
So, Mr. Mayor, overall, you do support this project?
I
but
do.
You'd like to see some concessions made by the developer to some, like the 20% or whatever?
Yeah, I think
like,
that's...
like we saw on Union Avenue, just so that we understand where you sand on this.
Yes, I mean, I appreciate the developers on Union Avenue because they recognize the need and they responded with a 20% set aside. And I think that means an awful lot. I think that makes it easier for the city to take into consideration concessions that maybe a developer is looking from a city, right?
Yeah.
Not to use it as in a punitive nature by any means. That's not my point. But I think it makes it easier when you deal with a developer like that who it's an arm's length transaction, but there's give and take.
I agree. I'm not gonna disagree with that statement.
Well, I don't,
I don't know that we could do anything about it.
this is
but-
really more for, I guess, for the developer or his representative, but you got, I would hate to live on the third floor of any place, walking up and down those stairs. So in my mind, the third floor would be worth less than the first floor. So
Yeah.
maybe you could put those workforce, if you came up with a percentage, 3 or 4, maybe the third floor would work to satisfy everybody, because maybe you could say, well, that's gonna be lower rent anyway. I would think it would be, but I'm not in the market, so I don't know. But, okay.
I appreciate you taking
Thank
my
you for
remarks.
coming in,
Thank you.
for your time. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Hazel Zimmer. I've lived here for 50 years, and I was a social worker for a number of years for the town of Laconia, well, for the state of New Hampshire. But I fully endorse what our mayor has said and agree that we need to consider the cost of these apartments. It looks very nice to me. I think it would be an asset to the community. And I would hope that if there are handicap units that the developer might consider being open to Section 8 certificates. I don't know if they still exist, but someone who is handicapped might need that in order to just have a place over their heads. I hope you'll consider what the mayor has suggested, and perhaps someone should come up with a resolution and put it in writing.
Okay, thank you. Was somebody else back there want to come up? I thought I saw somebody else move. Oh, we got 2 here.
Good evening. I'm Dave Keats. I'm one of the abutters to this project. I wanted to talk, a little earlier, we talked about drainage, and that's pretty important to me.
Yeah.
So which side do you live on, or would
On
you?
the Fenton Ave side.
Okay,
So
so
I've
the
got two
back side.
Oh,
properties
so
on
you're
the
sort of
backside.
behind it.
Correct. I've
Okay,
got two
all right.
properties on the backside. Now, coming off of that backside, there's an underground spring that runs down through there. It cuts down across it through Fenton Ave, 22, 26, and 27. I think I supervised 27 being tied into their basement drain because of the amount of water. I know the New Salem side has a 10-inch drain that can take water, but if you're not doing a drainage study, how are we addressing the water that's coming off-site? Maybe Du Bois and King could, do you have a drain plan?
Yes.
All right.
You want me to address that, Mr. Chairman?
Well, come on up.
Thank you. Peter Howard from Du Bois and King. And first of all, I don't know if you heard said earlier, we have increased the amount of green space significantly on the property. So that alone, I think, is going to decrease the runoff from the site. But we also have incorporated drainage catch basins throughout the property. We're incorporating stone drip edges, deep stone drip edges with overflow pipes that go into the drainage. So we'll get infiltration, we'll get any excess overflow into the storm drain system. We're incorporating an oil grease separator on our final catch basin to help prevent any petroleum type products that might spill to get into the city drain system. And we're grassing the entire site. So that alone, I think, would speak to the fact that we're decreasing the runoff from the site, improving the drainage situation, and I don't see a problem with this particular development. I could show you on here if you'd like to see the catch basins or.
Sure.
Sure. what I did was on this, I outlined things in different color. These are all the drip edge that, around each one of the buildings. So it's not just a shallow little drip edge that you would block the rain from coming off and creating an erosion problem, but actually collecting it. We'll be doing that around the buildings, and then each one of these ties into the drainage system. There's a pipe in it, if you will, so that if water doesn't infiltrate fast enough, there's some storage capacity actually in the drains themselves, then it would run off into the storm drain system. The green is the catch basin system. So we're collecting it here. The drainage will go this way into these catch basins. The drainage will go this way into that catch basin. There's a catch basin there for that coming there. This is going to grade this way into these catch basins. So we'll catch the runoff from the parking lot, get it into the city's storm drains. The other colors are the sewer and the water system that is being proposed. Thank you.
Is the snow storage, is that gonna be, wherever the snow is gonna be pushed?
Yes, this map doesn't show it quite as well, but our thought was that we would have this area that could be used in the summer for picnic or whatever, but this will be an open area. Snow would be able to be pushed and stored in that area. And then we have other areas around where we're proposing snow storage around the site.
But the one in the back there, that's the one is on the back side, so
Yeah.
on the Fenton Ave side. So the drainage for that snow is gonna go into the catch basin, it's gonna be directed into that?
The general drainage pattern across the property is towards, it's not away. In fact, there's a little bit of a drop in the grade. So we're not going to contribute to off-site. We're going to be collecting it on-site, pushing it toward New Salem Street, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Just address that.
I have a question
I just
for
want to
Sarah.
make sure that it's on record, knowing that, so this area here, this is my property
Oh,
here.
okay.
Yeah.
And we have had for years water, they actually graded that dirt parking lot so that water would go onto my property and others. And it's an issue that we've had in the past, and we just want to make sure going forward that you are going to be pitching that. to the
That's
New Salem
grading,
side.
we're grading towards New Salem Street.
Okay, and staff, you can make note of that?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mind if I go?
Go ahead.
Michael Green, I am also an abutter to this, to the area you're talking about up in here, that picnic area. And my concern is, I don't see any grading lines showing how it's draining, but that area will and does drain right onto my property now. So I just need some assurance that it's going to be drained away. I'm actually for your project. It's just, I just don't want to have any more water than I already have. The other thing is, because that's going to be a congregating area, I would love to see some type of a fence or something there separating the property so it doesn't become a cut-through. But because my property's wide open, there's a couple homes on it, and I just don't want more water, and I would like to keep
So there's
pedestrian
nothing
traffic.
there, there's no physical barrier right now?
No.
I'm really not, because they're
Which is,
asking,
that's why you know there's water. You
But
can see it.
Is there a, between your house or houses and where their buildings are gonna go up, is there quite a space there, or?
This is my property right here.
Okay.
I think the person that was just talking is right here.
Okay.
So we're kind of the immediate abutters to this. So I would like to,
Is there a fence that's being planned for there?
Not that I'm aware of off the top of my head, but we can add a condition to put a fence there. That's not an issue.
okay, so,
Are you Cross Street LLC?
yes,
Okay, thanks.
36 and 38 Cross Street, yeah.
Checking it on the map, thanks.
Yep, thank you. Any questions you have for me? Thank you.
How high of a fence do you want?
I'm more looking for traffic, so, I'd like to see a 6-foot fence.
My client's happy to pay for a 6-foot fence on your property.
Okay.
If that works for you.
Yep,
I'd like to put the fence on your property,
it's fine.
so that,
Okay, so just so
But I
the
don't want it way on my
no,
property.
no, just,
so everybody
I've been hiding
can't-
behind the post, for the record, I'm Kevin Morrison.
so you're agreeing, I just want everybody to be able to hear this, to put a fence up?
I would agree to
On
put a
his property.
6-inch stockade fence up.
6 foot.
But, yeah, 6 foot, yep. But I would like to put it on their property, so like, say, 12 inches is their property, the fence would be there, so that.
Yeah, if you, and I agree that if you wanna put it 1 foot onto my
Yeah,
property,
and
that's
that way
fine.
he can totally control it, do
But that's the
everything.
question, the next question is who would maintain the fence?
It's gonna
I'm
be,
ha-
it's
I'm
gonna
hap-
be
it's
his
my- It
fence.
would be my fence, I'd be happy to maintain it.
Okay,
Unless it's your people breaking it.
Yeah, no.
But my biggest concern is just making sure the drain,
No, we're-
and the other is the perimeter drains around, the catches,
Catch basin.
these things, right here. Not the catch basins, the
Stone drip
stone
benches.
drip. Are those, I don't see it piped somewhere, is that piped into the drainage, or is that,
No,
cause?
they drain into the catch basin system.
Yep, I just wanna see where it's connected. Is there a connection line?
Yeah, let's see, here's the.
Yeah, I don't see the pipe connecting it, that's why I'm asking, that's all.
Rich, who's your question?
Fences around everybody's
Staff,
property.
can that wait, or do you
Yeah.
want?
I would just ask that those perimeters are tied into the catch basin
Yeah,
system, so.
they are.
We have a
There-
huge groundwater issue.
There's one, there's one. There's one right there.
Okay.
There.
You can go look now.
It shows this D around here, this.
Yeah, the ones I'm most concerned with are these two.
Okay, you guys, all right, so we got the point, and the staff's gonna be watching for that.
And what was the property address for you?
36 and 38 Cross Street,
You got it. Cross Street.
Cross Street.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope.
there's somebody
And
else?
I'm in support of the project.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else back there? I thought I saw somebody else. Come on up, sir. We haven't had this much public comment in months. We just give you a name and address, sir?
Mike Mills, I live on White Oaks Road, but I also operate Mills Industries, which is close in the corner of Fair and Water Street to this. So this is my path to work every day, going back and forth.
I'm sorry, this is your what?
Path to work,
Okay.
coming down from White Oaks Road.
Oh,
to-
in other words, the
to
street
go to
you
Fair and
use.
Water Street,
Okay.
yeah. It looks like this is a real stark, steep curve.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take the opportunity to do that, work with PTW, maybe you could round that off a little bit?
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
I want you to take the time and talk to DPW or perhaps the city, council about that, but not us. But I know what you're saying.
Right.
And I know that the developer is graciously bent to the city Department of Public Works to move buildings back or eliminate buildings for the site view for people exiting their property. But anything else, road construction or removing the road, that's not for us.
Okay.
That's definitely
do
for
that, too.
the council.
All right, now, the other thing I spend a lot of time when I go on walks and breaks in this whole area, and there's still a huge volume of homelessness, drug use going over here. The only concern I have is for whoever moves in there with small kids, are those people gonna be a threat to those kids?
I don't think there'll be any more of a threat there than they are anywhere else in the city.
Yeah.
So I would not be any more concerned about it there than any place else in the city. And if I had young children, I'd be concerned about them being anywhere at night or without adult supervision. So, yeah, okay.
Well, that was my, and then I have a question. Someone heard I was coming down here, and they were saying, "Will you guys raise the Salvation Army and so forth?" Was there any lead stuff that needs to be?
I'm sorry,
It's
can
in
you
the
ask,
soil.
so we can hear what you're asking, what did you ask?
Lead left over from knocking down the old buildings
Um,
in that soil?
Was there, I'm sure that somebody from the
So
city
the-
monitored that.
The code enforcement department handles the demolition permits, and they have regulations regarding remediation for all sorts of hazardous materials, including lead,
Okay, so they
asbestos, all that
did,
good
so
stuff,
they're
yes.
doing that.
They do have to file a report with the code department.
Correct.
And how they manage all that, and that's with the code department in the state. We don't normally get involved with those.
But somebody is.
But the code department would be overseeing that.
Okay.
All right, well, that was it. Thank you
Okay,
for listening.
thank you very much for taking the time to come down. Somebody else back there, I see somebody else standing up. I thought it was here for chickens. Hi.
Hey, my name is Daniel Marico. I live on Moulton Street.
Okay.
So kind of just piggybacking off of the mayor's statement, I think the members of the community are extremely concerned about the deficiency of the housing in Laconia and how unaffordable it currently is becoming. With the new developments happening all across the city, there's high-end apartments and condos forcing individuals out of the community, which would negatively impact the working community of Laconia. With current market pricing, it's obviously getting out of control, as the mayor had stated previously, and people are unable to afford it. So kind of backing up on the 20 percentile, I think that there should be an ordinance on a certain amount of units being developed that, obviously there's further talk of that going forward for anything being developed. In addition to the 48 units, with such a large project, drainage and runoff analysis should be performed despite precautions to, rectify the abutter concerns of, everything getting produced. So, yeah, just wanted to kind of.
It's, well, I think that's being addressed. It sounds like it is. And again, these two guys are like pit bulls, they're watching all this stuff because we're watching them.
Yeah.
So, I know they'll be keeping a handle on that. And runoff is a problem, it's a problem all the time now with all the rain we get.
Yeah.
Some of these storms, the 100-year storms every 2 months or every month.
Yeah.
So, and no matter how much mitigation they do, the odds are there'll be problems when we have this incredible rain amounts.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's a point well taken, and they're taking that.
Yeah. And
With regards to the affordable housing or workforce housing, what district, what ward do you live in?
2.
You live in Ward 2?
Yeah.
So, by all means, reach out to your city councilor in Ward 2 and express your concerns about this, because as you heard the mayor say, there's probably still some stuff that can be done on this,
Yeah,
on the city council level. I agree with you personally.
Yeah.
Especially on large projects. Like, this is a large project. In my mind, it is.
Huge project.
I think
yeah.
anything more than 10 units is a large project.
I would
And
agree.
certainly the people paying for it agree with that. It's a large project, so.
I would agree.
Okay, anything else?
And just to kind of go on, back on your last statement about kids being out at night, and it being, we all know that Laconia is an extremely, especially downtown, dangerous place to be at night. Don't we want a sense of community? Don't we want kids to be out playing? And don't we want to have that?
Again, with all due respect, if I had a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old or a junior high school kid,
I wouldn't
I'm
even want to live in this town.
No, I disagree with you, because when I was that age, and I'm only speaking for me, my parents had a pretty strong handle on where I was. I had to be with somebody. I wasn't out on my own or running around with a gang at 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm sorry. But you open the door to anything happening. It doesn't have to be homeless people. It can be any situation.
Yeah. And I'm
So-
not, and
so-
just to back that up too, I'm not targeting homeless people. I'm targeting dangerous people.
Yeah, well, and that's the way, that's the unfortunately world we live in. If you can find a utopia where that doesn't exist, let us know. And we might all move there or bring it here.
Yeah. Well, thank
Okay.
you for your time.
Thank you. Ice cream is calling. Anybody else? Okay, come on up.
I just came up to I live in Cross Street also. I'm kind of a butter of some type, but there is problems with sewer in our area. I mean, they're always down there, digging out the drains out there. So I just want to make sure that, that happens. But I love this project. I think it's wonderful, and I think we need to make it possible for people who work here to be able to live here. I applaud the homeless home right there too, and taking care of people that are unable to take care of themselves. And I'm just happy to see it all come together. I just hope it comes together well. I think it's a lot of buildings, there are a lot of people going to be there in that small area, but who am I to judge?
Well, that's
So-
okay, they'll spread out.
Okay, yeah, well, but I just want to say, this has been a great experience, and I'm glad to come to the meeting, and it's in my neighborhood, so I needed to be here, so.
Oh, you like coming to this meeting? Well, come more often.
Thank you.
And what was your name for the record, real quick?
Oh, it's Linda Smollett.
Perfect,
Thank
thank you.
you.
How did I miss that? Thank you. Okay, anybody else with a public comment? Going once, twice? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public the comment at 8:21. Okay. You have something you want to add?
Well, I do have information about the housing, if it's important for the record and germane to your decision-making. With regard to the numbers, under the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, 2024 numbers for Belknap County, New Hampshire, the income limit for an apartment to be considered affordable is $58,020.
$58,000 a year?
Yes.
So what's that break up? Break that down to me for a month.
Well, this is their income level, so
Oh,
58.
58,000.
Correct.
Okay.
A little under $5 grand a month.
So say that, so you're saying 58,000 a year income means what?
That's what they consider to be 60% of the income level for a three-person family in Belknap County. So again, we're looking and saying, what is the income level for affordable housing? What are they able to pay for, et
What
cetera?
is somebody, do the figures say what?
The numbers do not provide what the figures say. They simply identify what qualifies as far as income levels.
But they don't say
So in
what
other
the
words,
rent should be?
correct. So
Well, it's
there's
supposed to be 30% of something.
Okay, well, give me
Correct.
30% of that.
30% of that would be, if we do the math, just over $1,000 a month, right? It'd be about
$1,450.
$1,450.
Okay. I have no idea what your client is gonna charge for rent.
I have no idea either. That's not a discussion we've had.
That's because it's market value. And market value could be, I don't know what it is around here, but when I hear what people are paying for rent, I gag because I think, my God, how do you do that? So, would it be,
Well, I would note, Mr. Chair, without intending to interrupt you, that part of the way that we eliminate the high rents is to increase the supply of housing, right? Because this is a supply and demand issue.
technically?
We have more demand than we have supply, so the prices increase. And as you increase supply, you reduce demand, which reduces the prices.
One would hope, but I have not seen that happen anywhere in this country, including big metropolitan areas and larger cities,
Well-
such as Manchester or Concord and places like that, without help from the city government. It's just the way it is. It's just, I wish that formula worked. I wish that if we had more people selling fraps in a city, the price would go down. But the reality is that people say, I can get this much for it, and I'm gonna do it. And everybody else does. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, gasoline. So, your theory, I think, is unfortunately outdated. It just doesn't seem to work anymore. So we kind of need to nudge it along a little bit if the city can. And again, you gave us some figures, I think that's great. We know that it's 1,100 or 1,400?
1450.
So 1,450, again, I don't have any idea what the market value is around here, but if we could get 4 apartments, which is about 10%, a little under 10% of the units, you got 48 units, right? So 10% would be 4.8, right? Am I
5
right
units.
on that? So let's say 4 units. If we get 4 units put aside for that $1,400 level, or something in that arrangement, that would be incredibly wonderful. And it would make a statement that the developer, who is a fine gentleman, and is a businessman, can try to make this work. So, what was I saying about the 3rd floor? How many buildings are there?
There are 8 buildings.
8 buildings. So if we just took 4 units on the 3rd floor from the 8 buildings and made them that affordable housing thing, that would be absolutely wonderful. What a great thing that would be. And I think that when the next owner comes along, which I'm sure will be at some point, they'll be able to live with that too. I really do. I know I can't predict the future, but I only go by Union Avenue, because that guy is not gonna own that building for 35 years. The
No,
gentleman
he's
is
not.
building it.
But again, I don't know exactly what the conditions were with regard to that approval and what was necessary in order to receive their approval. And
We asked them to do it, basically, and they did it. They had, first of all, we agreed to, I don't think there was any, geez, will you do this for me or you do that? I'm not saying that's improper or anything. I'm just saying that it was an agreed to deal. The gentleman is working with the city.
until tonight, we hadn't heard any specific request from the city with regard to that. And
We can request that right now.
I would also point out, Mr. Chair, that for that property there, that applicant specifically said they were going to do workforce housing when it came
That's
in.
fine.
And the board had requested that we put it into writing, which we did.
Right.
So there is a little
Right.
difference.
No, I'm just saying that we know we got a problem, and I just think this would go a long way, just 4 units. And then we can work with that. I'm just saying, I'm just sitting here by myself. I haven't heard anybody else pipe up for this, but I have the floor, so I'm just stating that I think this would be a great thing.
far be it from me to assume that you're ever just shouting into the wind, Mr. Chair.
Oh, believe me, I do it all the time, so, but I'm good with that, so I heard something over there, to, no doubt, agree with you. Okay, so I don't want to beat the horse on this thing.
Well, there is one other thing that you need to consider, actually, which is the second waiver that we submitted.
Okay.
We haven't gotten to that yet.
We have
That
not.
second waiver, can we talk about that now?
Do we talk about that before this approval?
No, we didn't talk about this waiver
I don't
yet.
know
No,
if they're
so-
separate and distinct, that's what I'm saying.
Yes,
this
this
is
is
a different
separate.
waiver.
This is for, the applicant is requesting, if I'm not mistaken, that the board waive the impact fees for this project up to 80%, which is permitted by ordinance. The last time the board did this was for the project over there on Union Ave across from the high school.
Union Square.
And the board had granted a 40%.
Okay, so let's talk
reduction.
about 80%, up to 80%. And how much is the impact fee right now?
The impact fee right now,
Is over $160,000.
yep, $167,105.76.
It's almost, that's closer to $250,000 than it is to the other end.
It is.
That's a lot of money.
Mr. Chairman?
167?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
perhaps what we could do is tag the request to a commitment for some police, fire, teacher, public works.
Workforce housing.
Some workforce housing?
Yeah.
That would be,
I-
you'd be willing to go up to 80% for that?
I'll have to think about that until I hear from the developer. But I think it's important to say, not just workforce housing, but city employee housing. And I would submit to you or to your client that the discussion about the danger at night and could be dramatically impacted by some police and fire living on the 3rd floor of.
Well, given that the police station is right across the street, I'm certainly
They're not
hoping.
normally-
Doesn't seem to.
Please be aware that our police department does not hover around the station.
I am aware.
Okay,
They're out throughout the
They're out
city.
everywhere else because,
And you have right across the street from you, a facility that houses folks who
That is
are
correct.
in distress, or some folks are in distress.
Could I get-
I just would ask you to spend a few minutes, if we could just take a break for a few minutes and ask you if you could talk to your client about the idea of committing some number of,
Okay.
of units to.
To specifically city employees,
Yeah,
okay?
At that, that $14.50 or whatever it is, rate adjusted annually or whatever.
Okay, can we just clarify for how long, or
Well, again,
what the criteria are?
That's something that we would probably put in a deed of some sort, like we did in Union Avenue.
Be a deed restriction.
So there was a deed restriction condition that was added to the Union Ave project?
Yes, and it was
For
35 years.
35 years.
For 20%.
For
of that
20%.
development, But, and that was to be workforce housing as defined by state statute.
Okay, but you said 20% of what?
20% of the number of units.
Okay,
For that
so-
project.
Well, and there's a lot, so that development, there's some differences between that unit, this development and that development. It's the number of units, financing factors in about number of units and percentages. So it's something for the developer to be cognizant of, and then the board to be cognizant
so-
of making requirements.
Can I ask, there's 8 buildings, you said?
There are 8 buildings,
And how many units on the 3rd floor on each?
2.
That's 16.
I'm very sad that you don't think downtown Laconia is a pretty view from the 3rd floor. I think it would be.
You know something, it's a great view, but getting up there stinks. Especially when you're carrying groceries.
I was
and
just gonna
everything.
say.
I'm sorry.
But it's less of a concern when you're young and starting out your job.
Oh, yeah, that's, so you're telling me you're gonna rent the higher ones for more money than the lower ones?
I'm not telling you anything of that nature.
Yeah. Well, also good cardio, you know.
Yeah, nonetheless, we could talk about that some other time too. So,
So I believe, Mr. Chair, and I'm not trying to hijack your meeting, but
Would you like to
Counselor
take-
Cha- Counselor Chair Cheney asked for a brief recess so that I could meet with my client.
please do,
Okay.
please do. We can.
Was there anything else that you would like to add?
No.
Anything else that the board would like to add before I meet with my client?
I just have one question, and I don't know if this is a factor. As you know, there were 90 units that were just built on Province Street.
Yep.
We put them in there. Somebody posted an application for someone that wanted to live in those units. And I just want to put it out there as a record, is it costs $600 to apply to live in that apartment, non-refundable. Now, I don't know
That's
what your
absurd.
internal policy is, but you're someone out there and you've got to apply to 2 or 3 places to live. You're asking people to come up with almost $2,000 just to file an application fee when it costs, I think it's $47.50 to run a background check
Yeah.
with the state. But
Was
we
that-
can't control that. I'm just mentioning that
Was
as.
that through the actual property owner or through an agency that the property owner
Well, it
hired?
doesn't, that's the thing, it's whoever's it's the property manager's thing, okay? And I know we have very little control, if any, on that. I'm just throwing that out there as a
Okay.
reality of what is happening to the accessibility of housing in all of our communities, not just our community, I'm saying all of our communities, and that's pure profit. That's not even rental income, that's just a service fee that's taxed differently by the federal government. May not be a topic for this, I just wanted to throw it out there, that that's a lot of money when you're looking for a place to live.
I want to throw out that Mr. Morissette has also done pretty well by the city on
I-
several of the projects
Yes,
that he's
he
done.
has.
And I'm not aware of any request on his part or anybody working for him to pay up front unrefundable. I have a lot of faith that he can, I think you can look at what he's done and it comes out nice. And,
Oh,
but
no, he's got
I
nice
also
properties,
think we'd like to
well
see.
maintained.
I'm happy to have a conversation with my client.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. You go ahead. Can we take up anything else while they're having their little thing and come back to this?
I have a technical question on this.
No, go ahead. He's got a question, go ahead. For you
The
guys.
oil water separator, is that DPW's purview, or is that?
Yes.
Okay, so that falls under them to clean, maintain, okay.
If you
Okay.
want to take a 5-minute recess, you can do that, or?
I'll leave it up to the
No,
board.
can we do the, whatever the
Yeah, how about,
other thing we need to?
Do you want me to read off all the, is that what you're talking about?
No,
no,
wasn't there another,
how about,
oh, the 80%?
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
just the
okay.
waiver and then the
Yeah,
waiver decision.
why don't we get the rest of that out of the way?
Well, they're
So
not here, though.
yeah, let's do,
Well,
don't they
we
need
got
to
a
be here?
copy of it.
We should probably just take a
I would wait.
5-minute recess and
Just-
wait for them to
That's
come back.
I was
probably
thinking we could do the
I agree
planning
with that.
department report real quick.
I would
No,
wait.
I think that we should stick with the agenda, and then we either take a 5-minute and come back, or we just wait
I
for it.
wouldn't mind standing up a little bit,
Yeah,
All right, fine.
I'm gonna run up 3 flights of stairs.
right? With some groceries.
One second, Mr. Chair.
1 second, or you're all set?
You're good.
I gotta reload, now this is reloading.
Okay, hold on 1 sec. Okay, we'll start the meeting again at 8:38. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair, do I need to bring you a gavel? I have an extra
No,
one.
I've got this right here. I've actually got one somewhere at home. I just didn't bring it in. This
Fair
works,
enough.
though.
So you have twisted my client's arm. He's willing to allocate 4 units to specifically city employee housing at workforce housing rates for 5 years. And he's willing to do that right now.
Just a quick question, would he extend that to employees of the hospital? They're pretty low paid, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they work in laundries, they're LNAs, you know.
City employees, that's close enough.
Yeah.
I think that they should just be the number of units at the associated.
I agree with it. not
And we should
restricted to
not
city
legally
employees.
be stipulating which businesses or
Oh, that's
entities are
I agree.
being assigned to them.
I,
1 unit for every 2 buildings, right? 8
I'll
buildings?
let them decide where they put the units.
Yeah, well, no, I mean,
you know,
I don't care
I
where they
think-
are, yeah.
I think 4 is reasonable, but I'd like to see more in 5 years. And the reason being is because I'm pretty sure, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, he's gonna build a really nice situation over there.
Yes.
And I got a feeling he's gonna move it along down the road to somebody else. And
He's a developer.
I'm not saying that his age says that, but I'm thinking he's probably gonna do that because he likes to build things, not probably manage them. So I don't think that extending that out will hurt the sale of that building at all. I really don't. Only because I've seen it done in other places, not just here in Laconia. So I'd like to get
30 years.
maybe a 10 or 15-year one if we could, a deed into that. I think that's reasonable, because that goes by like that. It really does.
Well, so that does bring us back to the impact fees, of course.
Yes, we're gonna still talk about the impact fees.
Okay.
Yeah, we were waiting
So-
for you to
We
come
haven't-
back
we
before
haven't
we talked about
discussed
that.
that yet.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see if we get a minimum of 15 years out of that. I think that's reasonable.
Oh, we're.
Was that yes?
10. 10.
Come on, we,
Take it.
I feel like I'm in my store.
Well, at least you feel at home.
I feel like it's so little compared to the other guy, but,
It's less than, it's 1/3 of what we required on the Union Ave
it's
project.
just a third of it?
But we didn't require that.
He came
We did
forward.
not
Excuse
require
me,
it.
We didn't
Yeah,
require it.
that's the
He came up with
difference.
35 years deed.
No, we came up with 35.
We went back and forth,
Right.
and he agreed to
He
it.
agreed to it. We came up with the 35 years, or 30 years, whatever it is. We came up with that. Because his thought was, is he's not gonna be there 30 years from now, and who knows if the building will even be there 30 years from now, quite frankly, the way things go. We'll do 12. I'll feel so much better. 12. Remember the birch tree?
Okay.
12.
You have won 12 years.
All right, I'll accept that. What's everybody else think?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree.
Barry?
Sounds generous to me.
Sounds generous to me, okay.
wasn't allowed,
Now,
was you?
let's talk, so we're talking about workforce, we're talking about
Correct.
that $1,400, whatever that.
That's correct. For rental units,
Yep.
that's typically considered 3-person, and it's the exact number
I'm getting it here.
is, and it changes on an annual basis, but 3 units, 60% of the income, and that's 60% of the average income in the county, which is $58,020 per year as total income for that 3-person family.
They can work out the formula.
Yes, that is defined by state statute. State statute
I was
defines
just
what
gonna
workforce
say,
housing
should we-
is. It's what we did for Union Ave. We'll put it in here. that
Should
it's
we
gonna be in
reference as
accordance.
defined by state
Yes,
statute?
we will reference
Yep.
as
So
defined by
we're
state
all on the
statute.
same
So
page here
it'll be
again.
deeded for a minimum of 12 years.
Yep.
Okay, now let's talk about the impact fee waiver. What was the request on that? That was 80, you were requesting, we can do up to 80%.
Correct.
And what was the total on that, was,
The total impact fees are just over 160,000.
just over 160,000?
That is correct.
So if we waived 50% of that, what would that be? 80?
Oh, 83,000 and some change.
All right, well,
We gave the other guy 40, right, Charlie?
Yes.
We gave the other person 40, and they did not do workforce housing. The Union Square project that went through got 40%, and they did not propose any
Oh,
workforce
okay,
housing.
all right, okay.
they did not what?
They did not propose workforce housing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think we negotiated with these people, certainly from my perspective. The deal was, you give us something, we're gonna give you what you've asked for.
Okay.
I'd like to move the 80% reduction.
Okay. I just didn't want them to think we were walking over that easy, all
Yeah, I
right.
understand.
So, I hear, so is that a motion, Counselor?
It is.
So you're making a motion that we grant 80%
I'd go
waiver
60, but I
Yep.
wouldn't
for the
go
impact fee? Is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Rich. Any more discussion on that?
Well, I'd prefer to see 60. I just think there's gonna be a lot of walking traffic in the downtown area from this project, and I'm actually really seriously thinking about the Parks and Rec Department and the library, that are hopefully, both of those agencies get used, and that there's going to be some impact to them. And that's my only concern. I support giving them a waiver. We really need this project. I just don't wanna go to the full 80. I'd prefer to see 60, just to be able to hold my head up. And I do worry because, like I said, it's good because this is a great walking kind of project. Do you know what I mean? And I do worry all those impact fees do go to support Parks and Recs and the library and other agencies like that. And I think that they could right in the city, we're gonna see a lot of, hopefully see a lot of park usage and
Okay, let me,
stuff
let
like
me,
that.
let me ask, the gentleman made motion, would you accept a friendly amendment on that, or you wanna stick with
I
the?
will not.
Okay,
Okay,
well,
so it's up to us.
And let me point out,
Sure.
it's Parks and Rec, but it's also police, fire,
Oh, yeah.
public works, all of which we may be able to say, let's give the money to Parks and Rec. I don't disagree with that, but 20% to Parks and Rec. But I think if we're gonna put some of our employees, hopefully, or at least market rate, we can afford to give up somewhere. I would, I've watched Mr. Morissette build stuff on several occasions that were above average in
yeah,
quality
well, he
and
does great work.
whatever, and I don't think he's a slash and burn developer that, like some we've seen. I think he wants to meet us halfway. So my motion stands.
Okay.
If it's voted down, then we'll work on 60.
All right, any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor of granting the waiver of 80% of the impact fee, please raise your hand. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? One opposed. So 5 in favor, 1 opposed. The motion passes. Okay, so that is going along with the agreement we reached before for the 4 units.
Yep.
Under the conditions that were set.
Perfect. Do you want me to start reading off conditions now?
Are you up?
I just wanted to say that I thought the mayor was hoping for 20% of
okay, but
these
we-
units.
I understand, but this is what we've come up
And
with in that, yeah.
It's above that.
And that's something that can be worked on later with the city council for future developments.
Okay.
I appreciate your
So,
thoughts on that. Okay, go ahead.
for the findings of fact, the application and site plans are consistent with state and city land use regulations. The application and site plans were reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its April 15, 2025 meeting. Their comments have been incorporated in the recommended conditions of approval, which are all conditions for pre-construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be completed at least 2 weeks prior to commencing any work on site. Plans must be revised and submitted to the planning department to include the following: a master sign plan indicating the type, size, design, and location of all signs on the property. Separate sheet showing the cut and pave areas in the city's right-of-way, as well as a quantities table associated with those items. On sheet C4 specifically, the hydrant water service branch must be completely removed. The 2-inch service line will connect back into the city main line in New Salem Street to create a loop. For site security, the applicant must submit one of the following performance guarantees for site improvement and restoration security, including but not limited to street work, utility installations, landscaping, and final pavement, to the planning department. The first option is cash or check in the amount equal to 11% of the total estimated cost for all site work to be placed into escrow and returned to the applicant upon completion of the project. Or for the second option, a performance bond in the amount equal to the total estimated cost for all site work with the city as the obligee. The applicant must possess all required permits and approvals granted by federal, state, and municipal boards or agencies. All permits and approvals must be in place prior to the signing and recording of the final plans in Mylar. Should any permit or approval be revoked at any time during the project, all work must cease until a new permit or approval is obtained. Copies of all permits and approvals must be provided by the applicant to the planning department. A voluntary lot merger form must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department. The form must be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense. 4 final plan sets must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department. Erosion controls must be in place and inspected and approved by the planning department. The planning department will perform regular site inspections to ensure erosion controls are installed and maintained correctly. A pre-construction meeting must be held between the developer and representatives from the Departments of Public Works, Planning, Fire, Police, and Water. Unless otherwise specified, all escrow checks must be received by the respective departments no later than 1 week following the pre-construction meeting. All other requirements in this section must be completed prior to conducting the pre-construction meeting. For construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be met during the construction of the project. All specifications for municipal water service as required by the Water Department apply to all construction. The Water Department must inspect all work on water lines. The applicant must adhere to all specifications as required by the Laconia Fire Department. Fire alarm system must be installed in accordance with current New Hampshire State Fire Code and city ordinances and must be monitored by a third party. A fire sprinkler system must be installed in accordance with New Hampshire State Fire Code and city ordinances. A separate water service line or exterior shutoff for this system is required. The addresses for all units must be assigned by the Department of Public Works to ensure compliance with RSA 231-133 and 133-A. Private trash service will be required if more than 4 trash cans or a dumpster are used. If a dumpster is used, it must be screened from view on all sides. The applicant must coordinate all work within the public right-of-way with the Department of Public Works to include all public sidewalks. Any and all damage to pavement within the public right-of-way must be repaired in accordance with DPW standards. Sidewalks must be constructed in accordance with DPW standards. Stamped pavement for sidewalks is not permitted. The required number of parking spaces must be delineated by paint, sign, or other method as approved by the Laconia Planning Department. For post-construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be met prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy. So for impact fees, the original amount is $3,481.37. The board has voted to grant an 80% waiver. So that rate at 80% per new dwelling unit must be paid to the planning department in accordance with RSA 674-39. The applicant is exempt from any changes to impact fee rates for 5 years from the approval date. Should the project not be completed during the exemption period, the applicant must pay any and all increases to impact fees regardless of vestment status. An as-built design, application, and fee for each dwelling unit must be submitted to the planning department for review and approval. And snow storage and or removal must be provided by the owner so drainage structures can function properly and the required parking spaces can be utilized. Finally, this project and all associated conditions must be completed by no later than May 6, 2030. If all conditions are not met nor any extension application filed with the Laconia Planning Department by the completion date, this approval will be null and void. And now for the conditions that were discussed tonight. 6-foot privacy fence must be installed along the boundary with 36 and 38 Cross Street as mutually agreed upon between both property owners. Deeded covenants for 4 units as workforce housing as defined by state statute for a minimum of 12 years must be provided to the planning department and recorded at the Belknap County Registry of Deeds at the applicant's expense.
And that would be in compliance with RSA 674-58, Section 4.
Correct. Anything else?
That cover everything, everybody?
Cool.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, there was one more, and I had it up here in my notes, and then I'll repeat it entirely for you. No, the parcel must be graded away from abutters and towards the drainage system that's in New Salem Street. Sorry, I had that up at the top and forgot to read it.
Yeah, that's right. Because that was in lieu of us waiving the drainage study, right?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the things, yeah. Okay, any more questions or comments? So I look for a motion to approve or deny this application.
So moved.
Mr. Councilor Cheney has moved to approve the application. Is there a second?
I'll second it,
With the conditions as
stated. in the
Cool.
findings.
Conditions as stated. Okay, all in favor, raise your hands. That's 2, 4, 6 in affirmative, so we're good, no opposition. I want to thank both of you, all 3 of you, for everything, and thanks for working with everybody together on this.
We're always happy to work with the board and the city.
I'm sure.
Well,
Thank
the guy
you
sell it
all
to
very
be
much.
reasonable about those application fees, because it's really getting out of control.
And thank you, everybody that came in
But
to
you've seen it everywhere.
comment on this. Okay, so now we're going to go
No,
to
for a place, yeah.
Chickens.
chickens. Here we go. This is 7.1, this is 7.4. Zoning Ordinance Amendment 235-41, Residential Accessory Uses. Proposed amendment to permit the keeping of chickens as an accessory use on certain residential parcels with performance standards. So this is all about keeping chickens on your property.
Yes.
Within the city limits. Now, do we have to accept this?
No, so, do you want to,
Yep, I can run through this. So, I believe it was Councilor Hoffman had requested the council take up or take a relook at a chicken ordinance that it had once, at one time considered. So we went back, we pulled up that old ordinance, read through it. This was a significant number of years ago that it had originally been drafted, so we went back through and cleaned up the language, made sure that it met muster as it pertains to other communities and legal, as far as legal was concerned, with any state statute updates or anything like that.
Can you hold on 1 second?
Yep.
Guys, can you move it out so we can hear? Okay, go ahead.
So, with that, we did go through, there was already proposed to add new definitions for chicken coop, chicken run. So this was also an opportunity for us to go in and kind of clean up our definitions section as well. So we put in some edits in there just to make it more compliant with legal standards and other municipalities around the state as well. But with that said, basically, this went to committee to review, to the city council subcommittee to review the proposed changes to the zoning ordinance for the keeping of chickens. As I mentioned, we did look at several other communities throughout the state, and I provided a comparison with all 13 cities, well, 12 other cities in the state, and how this ordinance would compare to those.
Until you're on chicken and eat it.
The subcommittee ultimately approved this language to come before planning board for the planning board to discuss and take its temperature before it ultimately wanted to make its final decision. And so we bring before you the language that was reviewed and approved by the subcommittee to review and get your temperature on it and see if this is something you're open to.
Can I ask that Councilor Hoffman come up? All my life I've wanted to do that. Can you please come up?
Well, I'm here.
The bench.
Good evening.
Good evening. Could you just give us what your thoughts are right here
Sure.
in front of us?
Obviously, I strongly support this. It was kind of my idea. I'd like Laconia to be in line with other cities in the state as far as people's property rights, the ability to raise chickens. I think it's crazy that you can live in downtown Manchester and have chickens in your backyard, and up here in Laconia you cannot. I think anytime you can have a food source that's locally sourced and not coming from a factory farm, I think it's better for the environment, it's better for the local economy, it's better for your health. I'm pro-egg. It's a perfect protein. It contains all the essential amino acids. I'm pro-chicken. I think every chicken that's in a backyard is not in a factory farm. And if you've ever seen a documentary on what goes on at an egg farm, I'd suggest you look it up, not while you're eating an omelet. It's pretty horrific. And I think, being able to raise chickens in your backyard and know what they're eating, and then you know what you're eating, I think is it's an important thing. And I think especially in these times of turbulent egg prices, it's now more important than ever that we have the right to own chickens.
Well, I like the fact that chickens eat ticks. That's a
Sure
good
do.
thing.
Well, you got to get the right kind of chicken, otherwise when they come out the other end, they're still alive.
Okay, never mind. We don't need to go there, but
Dear Lord.
whatever works, whatever works.
I didn't know that.
You spend too much time checking it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're in a state that has a chicken breed named after it, so it is practically a God-given right that we should be able to have New Hampshire Reds in our backyard.
I think that was one of the ones we specifically outlawed. No, I'm kidding.
So has everybody had a chance to read what was presented to us?
I have. Is it something that you've already gone through and this is exactly what you wanted to see?
I looked through the ordinance, and I think it does really fall in line with where other cities are in the state. It kind of brings us right into line with that. I think the regulations for security and area per chicken and chicken run area, I think is all really good. I think it's going to promote a sanitary environment for the chickens and a good free range environment for the chickens. I am for it. I think that the only thing in it that I questioned a little bit was the half-acre minimum property. I think that's going to leave a lot of people out of the chicken game that otherwise might want to take advantage. But I think it's a good start. And maybe if there's,
Would a quarter acre be better?
I think so.
I do too.
About a third.
A chicken is only this big, and you got 5 of them.
5 chickens. They blend in. You barely notice them.
Is that something we could make a recommendation
Yeah,
to
sure.
change?
So do we have to hire like a chicken officer now then?
I was gonna ask, is this like
Animal
under
control.
animal control?
Animal control.
Animal control? Yeah,
I
I thought so.
have a question on the definition.
Go ahead.
On the second page, under G, it says, "No person is permitted to sell eggs or engage in chicken breeding, comma, on-site slaughtering or other commercial activity." Does that mean you can't kill your own chicken on your
Correct.
property?
That's the way I read it.
Yes.
is that
Correct.
That's
Well,
what I
yeah, but
thought.
how are you
If-
gonna eat the chicken?
You'd have to take it somewhere to have it,
Take
to have it
to a-
butchered.
take it to- But,
Field
but
trip.
really,
But
really,
your neighbors aren't gonna want
I agree, that's a little, I
yeah,
mean,
I don't know that people.
you should be
are
able to
gonna-
butcher your own chicken,
I
right?
eat chickens, I
but-
have chickens, that's
All
all I
right,
said.
I just want to make sure I understood that
In
correctly.
fairness, I think the problem with slaughtering chickens is your neighbors.
Sure,
You know what I
I thought
mean?
it was fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, with regards to eggs, selling eggs, there's nothing in here to prevent you from giving eggs away.
Right,
Okay.
right.
I
Okay,
think what they
so-
don't want
Neighbors
is they
helping
don't want a
neighbors.
little stand outside
Other
that
than-
says chickens,
Right.
eggs or something.
Other
yeah.
than,
Right.
I'd like to make I don't know how, if I'm doing this right, but I'd like to make a motion to change that 1/2 acre to a 1/4 acre.
You don't need to make a motion to do that, you can just recommend that we make that change.
I would recommend that, unless somebody here has a strong opinion about that.
Now, is this for single-family residences only?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so without,
So a duplex person couldn't have a chicken?
No.
Correct.
I don't think that's fair to the other person living in the,
okay, so
What
without
if they
objection,
both wanted chickens? I see your point.
yeah, without objection, we'll change that to 1/4 acre,
Awesome.
okay? You guys get that?
Yep.
Is there any other suggested, changes?
I just had a question. Is this zoning specific for certain areas of the city, or is this for the entire city of Laconia?
I hope it's for the whole city.
Because out in the rural part, you can have chickens.
So,
in it.
so
You can have them
rural
now, yeah.
residential
This-
is, agricultural is allowed, that's a permitted use. So you could have, this wouldn't affect an agricultural use. Supersede, this is for single, this is,
This would
Rural
be,
residential, this doesn't affect.
All set.
no, no.
Yeah,
No,
and there's
'cause
no
you
roosters
have,
or
you have
anything,
farms out
so-
there and
Right.
they have
Okay,
much
I just
more.
wanted that
Yes.
clarified. I didn't want chicken farmers
Nope.
calling me up tonight.
Yeah.
No, this
No,
is,
no, no.
this is for an
Good
accessory
question.
use.
Yes.
So you would not fall under an accessory use if you were doing that
Okay.
out in that area.
Okay, anything else, Counselor?
That's all I had. I don't know if anybody else has
No,
anything.
but you're all set. Anybody else want to speak to this
No.
out there? Okay, are we set?
Ooh.
Do we need to do anything with
I-
this?
So you will need to open it to the public for public comment.
I thought I just did that. Okay, we'll open this up at 9:02. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on this chicken situation?
No one else?
seeing none.
Seeing none.
Seeing none, I'll close the public comment hearing at 9:03. Okay,
So if the board would like to move the chicken ordinance forward, it has been requested from the Government and Ordinance Subcommittee that it go back before them for further review, and they would make the ultimate recommendation to move it forward to City Council for final adoption. So if the board was to make any motion tonight, I would ask them to make a motion to refer it back to the Government and Ordinance Subcommittee for final review and to forward on to City Council for adoption.
Mr. Chair, I have one question. If it gets changed significantly, does it come back before this board?
Yes, if that subcommittee changed it, it would have to come back before the
Okay,
planning
and
board.
would we have to rehab
And we would have to
another hearing?
renotice it and have another public hearing on it. Yep,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that what we were doing,
yep, so,
I don't really care either way.
so they couldn't make any changes on it, and if they did make changes, it would have to come back before this board.
We'd have to renotice it and rehab another public hearing.
Yep.
okay.
Well, I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we accept the chicken ordinance, or refer the chicken ordinance to the Government Operations,
Okay,
Government Operations Committee as written, with the exception of reducing the size of a lot from 1/2 to 1/4 acre.
did you say with the exception?
Well,
or
I meant including
the change?
changing, including the recommended change, yeah.
Okay.
I'll
Is there a
second that.
Okay, it's been seconded, and by a Parks and Rec director, that should hold
Listen,
some weight.
I'm pro-chicken.
That
I
should
want a
hold some
chicken.
weight.
That's an
Okay, all in
excellent
favor, raise your
idea.
hands.
Chicken in every pot.
All in favor, raise your hands. Unanimous, thank you very much. We'll move on now to.
Love a chicken.
yep, we have two presentations.
I've lost my agenda here, kids. Oh, wait a minute, Here we go, okay. Now, we have presentations. And we're getting late, so we got 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes here. Okay, 8.1 PB 2025-056, 75 Tower Street. This is a conceptual. We do not need to vote to accept this, correct?
Nope.
Okay.
This is just a conversation.
All right, is the applicant here for this?
Oh, that's true.
Good evening. I'm Ronnie Pereira. Nice to meet you all.
Where do you live, Ronnie?
I live in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. I currently own 75 Tower Street right now.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm hoping that you guys will grant me permission to knock that house down and put up 5 or 6 townhouses and go from there. You have the conceptual design, I believe, somewhere. And that's what I'm hoping for.
So how tall are those buildings gonna be?
Within the zoning laws, I believe it's can't exceed 35 feet.
So 3 stories, 3.5 stories?
Correct.
And that's,
Between Doe and Tower.
that's going to, 3.5 stories.
Hey.
It's tall. That's gonna be, that's gonna be interesting to the,
So, right now, the zone does permit 35 feet by right. The reason why they're coming before the board for conceptual is because they're going to utilize performance zoning, CUP. So they will still have to come back to the board for their final approval, but this is just to come before the board, have a discussion, say this is what we're looking to do. If you guys have comments or concerns about it, now is the time to make that known.
so my concern is the view for people, your abutters.
Yep.
That's a big concern. If I was in a butter, and all of a sudden I've got a wall I'm looking at, I don't know, I don't know if any abutters are here or not, I don't know.
They're not, but I was here back in September, and there was a bunch of abutters here, and then I was told about the where's TIF rule, and to my knowledge, even back in September, if they're not paying a view tax, they technically don't have any right to.
So if they don't have anything in their deeds guaranteeing that they have a view to the lake, and anything in their deed guaranteeing that their neighbors have a view to the lake, you guys, the ordinance is gonna rule here, right? 35 feet, they're permitted to build up to 35 feet. Now, obviously, if they want to exceed that, they can certainly request that through the CUP, at which point, if you guys had concerns exceeding that, you would make those concerns known now, but
Well,
they're
it's
not
because-
proposing to do that.
Because it's not deeded or anything like that, doesn't necessarily make it easy to stomach. And, again, we're here to represent all of our residents.
I understand that.
So I don't know I wasn't here for that meeting, that sounds like that was in August or something.
So I think the applicant actually went before the zoning board and they were denied
I think they were denied for
a variance,
density.
for density, not for height,
Correct.
but for the number of units.
Right.
And when the applicant came back in, it was identified that they were,
Zoning?
to the planning department to discuss their next steps after that, is when it was identified that the Weir's TIF was in the performance overlay, and that they had the opportunity to then ask for a performance zoning CUP to increase density.
Okay.
So that's what has brought them here tonight. They're not here for any sort of approval. They're looking for input from the board for what would be amendable to the board for a project there, the scope and size, and you to be providing that input to them. So if you think they've proposed 6 units, if you don't think 6 units is the magic number, you think 5 units is the magic number, or so many units is the magic number, that's what you should really be providing to them right now, along with, should it be this high, or should it be, or what, is there some sort of give and take we can do to accommodate? So I think this is the board's opportunity to discuss that with them, to give them the feedback that they're really looking for.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do right now again.
Yeah.
And that is with regards to height. That's a big deal. It's a big deal for everybody at the Weirs and other places, but especially with a view of the lake. But I'm just curious, and it may be on here, and you'll have to excuse me for not seeing it, but what is the exact acreage of this property?
The exact what?
What's the acreage?
It's just shy of a quarter acre,
8,798
it's about
square feet.
9,900 square feet.
Is that 1 acre?
No.
So it's not
About
even
a
an acre?
fourth.
Fourth of an acre.
Oh, you could do chickens then, so it's a quarter of an acre.
Yeah, you can have chickens.
But not on the third floor.
No, thank you.
Build a bunch of chicken coops up there.
And this was accepted, this density by the zoning board?
No, it was denied, the density variance. So now they're coming before the planning board to
But the
ask.
ZBA had no trouble with the height.
The
They're not
ZBA,
proposing anything
Oh, it's
exceeding
within the
height.
ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one question,
Oh,
though.
wait a minute, Gail, let me just finish it, because I'm confused. So the number of units we have here was not approved by zoning?
Nothing was approved.
Correct.
Say that again?
No.
It was not approved.
Correct.
So how can we approve it?
Because this is through an innovative land use control called conditional use permit for performance zoning. This is an option the planning board has to, at this point, relieve certain zoning requirements only outlined in performance zoning. One of those is density. So this is another option for them to come through.
I see. So we,
so this is your power to, you can either grant relief or not grant relief in your final approval, should this come back before planning board. You can give them the feedback now of what you would be amendable to seeing, and if everything doesn't align, they're most likely not going to come back, but they,
Yeah.
What's the normal density?
it is 6 units per acre, so I
Okay,
think,
This
This
is
is
point
6
two two
units.
4 acres.
right,
So it's
so,
they can't have chickens, less than a quarter of an acre. No chickens there.
No chickens
Yeah.
and 6 units? That's a
But-
lot of units
but
in a
we're
quarter of an
talking about the
acre.
units, so the ZBA already said no.
Yep.
And they're asking us to make an exception for 6 units there.
May I intervene? Because they also said no because I didn't have a set of plans drawn up. I was told I didn't need them on the first meeting, so I didn't have them drawn up. And they said if I had a set of drawings,
They would have
the
approved
result
it?
could have been different, was the words they used.
Could have been or would have been?
Could have been.
I find it a quarter of an acre, 6 units is a little bit
It's a
too
lot.
dense for me.
And I'd ask, what's your thoughts on where you're gonna put a dumpster and what are you gonna do for snow storage?
Where's the parking?
Snow storage, I mean, again, we're not that far into this. We came here with a conceptual design for feedback from the board to say, okay, we don't want 6, we'll do 5. We'll do,
Need a number?
30 feet high, not 35, 25 feet high, not 35. I'm new at this. I'm not from around here. I've owned this house for 2 years. To me, it sounds like a good idea to put more housing into the wares, especially modified housing, modern housing rather. So again, I'm coming in with blinders on and looking for advice from you guys and going from there.
So I'm gonna, excuse me, I'm only gonna speak for me, and not everybody else, but I would love to see this 2 stories instead of 3, so 20 feet. And that would give me more of an open mind to have a few more units than, closer to the 6 units or something like that.
The structure that there's now is 24 feet high.
Oh, okay.
Right, so 24 feet.
But it
Okay.
sets to one side of the property.
Well.
Kind
it
of in the
does,
middle.
but
No, it's not.
It's not, it looks like it is.
somewhere in that area, that's, again, I'm speaking for me, I would be more open to that. I can't speak for everybody else.
Understood?
Yeah, Mr.
But
Chair,
that's
I
my
only
thought.
really have one concern. I think 6 is a little dense, but my only concern with Tower Hill, and I've voiced this in other projects in similar locations along that, is that's a real steep slope. And I'm starting to get real concerned about stormwater runoff and the lake that's just below it. And that's all. I mean, we're talking impervious surfaces and stuff like that, and green space and where that all comes in. I'm just saying, water does one thing, and that's run downhill.
Well, where his property is,
Yeah.
it's kind of more
Does it
flat.
flat out? And
Flat.
then, I know there's some
It's
little,
very
like
flat.
terracing there
It's kind of more
almost.
flat than it is steep slope.
Could we suggest terracing, much like they do in the Adriatic, say?
We
It's
suggest what?
flat.
Terracing.
I don't think
There's
it's
no room.
necessary there.
It's flat.
Yeah,
Oh, you don't think there's enough
There's
room?
not enough room.
yeah,
Yeah.
the lot's too
It's
too
not-
narrow.
It's not
Oh, it's too
necessary
narrow,
there.
okay.
It really isn't.
I'm amply familiar with the property because my constituents called about toilets left out on the balcony and garbage left around in the yard for the last, off and on for the last year.
It's been under, so we had a major flood there 18 months ago, and I'm still in the process of dealing with the insurance company, if you can believe that.
I don't have any trouble at all believing that, having.
So,
But I do think the height is an issue for me, and frankly, the number. I think members of this board ought to go take a look at that lot before you get too excited. 8,000 square feet, as somebody mentioned, is less than a quarter of an acre. And, you know.
so can somebody explain the Where's TIF criteria to me then? Because I wouldn't have wasted my time coming there.
I'm not sure that.
So you're meeting the criteria for performance zoning, not for the Weir's TIF. But the whole purpose of using this innovative land use control is to come before the board to get their impacts, their feedback, so you can help better shape. So if you want to take advantage of that to get a higher density, to take advantage of reduced green space or setbacks, that's what you're coming here to do, to try to maximize what your development is.
Okay.
So there's no, you're not getting an approval tonight, you're getting the feedback to get some assurance that I could probably move some sort of project forward with a certain number perhaps of seeking relief from A, B, C, and D, and that's what you're really here for. There's no approval that comes out. It's just
Right,
the
I
feedback.
understand that. So we're at height of 24. We agreed upon 24, because that's what's there now. We don't need to do 6, we could do 5. But alls I'm getting is it doesn't sit well with them. So do you want,
No,
I get you don't want 6, but does 5 work? But if you look at the TIF, it says I need to have at least 5, not 4. So,
Yeah, to utilize performance zoning, you would need to have at least 5 units of housing.
Is it 5 or 4?
I believe it's 5.
Whatever it is, what's left for parking and dumpsters and.
There's no space.
but that's city trash pickup on that street.
That's true, but you gotta put it somewhere before they pick it up.
But
I have to add
After
sidewalks.
you reach
More than
4,
four,
though,
You
is
have to have a dumpster.
there's dumpsters that start coming into play.
You're required to have one after 4.
Performance zoning,
If it said it in there, I wouldn't have had that, I wouldn't have asked.
My father has a 6-family, and he doesn't have to have a dumpster
So
in Laconia.
if things are pre-existing non-conforming, when they come back before this board, that requirement gets put on them. Until they come back, if they were approved, whatever year, what year is the property?
What year was it built?
Yeah.
No, what year did they?
What year did they get planning board approval? If there was a planning board back
It
there.
burned down in 2014 and got rebuilt.
Yeah, so the ordinance has changed ever since that period of time. If somebody was to come back in, then they would have to meet the new requirements.
So, yes, it's a minimum of 5 units for the lot to utilize performance zoning.
That's a flat spot on that, okay.
Any more comments from anybody?
I mean,
Help
I
the
don't,
applicant out?
This is CR zone?
Yes.
Correct.
I don't have the zoning regs in front of me. What's the maximum density ordinarily
Under the standard density, I believe it is 6 units per acre under, I look it up here.
Yes, 6 units per acre.
Yep, 6.
Okay, so even if we were to toy with 2 units, they'd still have to get a waiver from zoning?
So if you would not be amenable to at least 5 units, then they couldn't utilize the CUP. So they'd have to go back to the zoning board to seek a
I
variance.
think the lot's too small for 5 units, for sure.
And I think that's,
Probably
if that's the way the board feels, that's the feedback that we just need to make sure we
all right.
provide back to the applicant.
I would agree with that.
I would support that.
Do we have the actual dimensions on that lot? Do you have?
You just said it.
No, that's.
said 98
Square feet.
Square footage, I was just,
I don't,
Well,
off the top of my
Speaking for
head.
myself, I like the fact that you can mitigate the height and that's important. And as Councilor Cheney said, it's height and density. So the height in my mind, you've achieved that. It's just now the density, if we can figure it out. And, and if it's 4 units or 3 units or whatever, you're just gonna have to figure out
So,
how that works out financially for you to make it worthwhile.
Makes sense.
What you're doing.
so the lot dimensions are, it is 69 feet wide by 133 feet in length on one side and 122 feet on the opposite side. So as you're going down Tower Street, the lot is getting narrower.
Kind of like a pentagon.
Yeah, because Tower and Doe kind of
Yeah.
Yep.
go together a little bit.
And what's the width of these proposed?
69 feet,
69 feet.
pretty narrow.
So it is a fairly narrow lot.
No, what are the dimension width-wise on the lot of what he's proposing?
How big are your lots? How big are your houses?
32 by 16 per unit.
And that again is just on a conceptual design. We're here to adjust what we need to adjust. If it makes sense for us, we continue. If it doesn't, we don't.
I find it too small. I mean, too much for that property.
Yeah.
I would not approve the
CUP.
No, I don't think I would either. I mean, because you've got to factor in at least a parking space per unit, access, you know what I mean, into a small lot.
We have access from Doe Ave and Tower Street.
You have 2 cuts? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move.
There
that
would be
we
one
recommend
parking
for the
spot
applicant
outside and one
4 units,
garage per.
Yeah.
20 feet or 25 feet, whatever you.
You want to recommend 4 units.
Hold on,
So-
hold on.
It would have to be a minimum of 5. To utilize performance zoning, the board would have to, so I don't think it would be within your power to recommend. So in other words, what you're saying is, if they can't meet the 5, you're not willing to approve the CUP. That's, yeah.
Okay.
I don't get what the difference is. If we go 4 units, how does that mess
It's the
things
way
up?
it's in the ordinance. It says it has to be at least 5 units of housing or more to be considered.
That's
Dumb. Look at the size of this lot.
No, I'm not saying that. They're saying it has to be 5 units.
In order,
I'm saying
The
that
property
that's
has to be bigger
silly.
though.
in order to take use of the performance zoning CUP, it has to meet certain criteria
What
of,
if you don't do that? What if you don't use the?
then you don't, then you have to meet normal zoning requirements.
Yes.
And/or seek relief from the zoning.
Okay, gotcha.
So if they wanted to go back to the zoning board and request a variance to do the 4, because planning board said you should do 4, they could request a variance, but that would be up to zoning board to approve.
So we
Maybe
can't,
zoning
we
board-
can't suggest 4.
No.
No, unfortunately not.
So, gentlemen, so you said that you didn't, the zoning board wasn't happy, you didn't have plans. So maybe if you go back with plans and ask them to do 4, right? Am I right on that?
Whatever
Ask them to
number.
do, no, I was looking at, not you, I was looking at Rob. So if you ask them to do 4, if they give you a variance for that, then we can work with that.
Well, can somebody explain this then? Performing zoning overlay district, right there. Residential parcels containing 4 or fewer units of housing.
That are exempt. So they're exempt.
exempt.
So 4 or fewer, you can't do it. So you'd
That's
have to meet a
exempt.
minimum of 5. I know, the way it's worded is awful. Completely agree.
Sounds like
But
a
that's
double
why-
standard to me, but, okay.
Yep, we agree, it is written awful and it should
Yeah.
be rewritten, but that's how it's
For
written.
another day.
But you can go back and ask for, again, you said they weren't happy you didn't have the plans.
Correct.
So if you go back with plans for 4 and explain to the discussions here, et cetera, and ask for that variance, if they give you that, then you're back on, I think that's the best we're gonna be able to do tonight for you.
Well, it's unfortunate because it seemed like it was a slam dunk for us.
I sit here every Monday.
The Weirs,
every
man,
Monday
it's nothing slam dunk, I don't think, but
Right.
especially on Tower Street. It's a tough neighborhood.
All right, thank you.
All right, good luck. Okay, next we have
Oh, boy.
another conceptual, 8.2 PB 2025-059, Belmont Road. Applicant is proposing to merge two lots and construct either commercial or residential use. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for hearing me tonight. It's a late night.
It's hell being at the end of the agenda.
What's that?
It's hell being at the end of the agenda.
I'm happy to be on the agenda. I need you folks, thank you folks, for help hearing me tonight. What I've done is, I started this process 3.5 years ago. I bought it sight unseen. I was on vacation, and I bailed out. By the way, my name is Stephen Grant. I own 730 Endicott Street, Kitchen and Counters Building, and I own this piece of property. And I have a couple other commercial pieces of property in the Lakes region. This piece of property is pretty sensitive. I bought it sight unseen. When I got home, I said, what the hell? Well, Durkee Brook runs behind it. There's a 75-foot setback. I can put a single-family home on this property. This being the gateway into the Lakes region, I believe it should be a restaurant, a commercial building of some use. However, in order to do that, I have to encroach the setbacks, which are 75 feet. And I just want to know if it's a reasonable request to seek an approval for a commercial building, or just cut bait and put up a small modular and move on. Personally, it would need the parking, and I would encroach the setbacks there. And as you've seen, the building is 32 by 50 right now, 1,600 square feet. And each corner does set into the setbacks there. And you can see the parking does encroach the setbacks.
It's in the commercial, it's in a commercial district.
It's in a commercial zone.
So you're
and I-
looking for like light commercial, like maybe office space or?
Well, I have a nursery. A gentleman owns a landscaping business looking to do like a nursery retail.
Oh,
And
okay.
I've had a gentleman seeking to do an indoor golf simulator teaching school there. And I've had
This is South Main Street.
somebody looking for, like a diner, I guess.
Okay, so you've got a disparate kind of
I do,
folio.
but
Would
it-
you have to get
this
the
is
state approval for a curb cut there?
I've already got it.
Okay.
Oh, you've got, okay.
So this is.
I already
this is
have
the
it.
cap
Okay.
building.
Is
And
city
you want
water and
the
sewer
road to
available?
the-
There is water and sewer,
Just
and
past
we would
that,
have to,
Stan.
we're within the 200
Yes.
feet of the sewer line. It would have to be bored under the highway, 106, to tap in the line. I spoke to Nick, I think his name is Nick, at the water department, and he brings the water in off the cutoff from between 106 and 107. Now, I'd like to, not a boundary line adjustment, right? It's a merger, Robbie?
It's a lot merger, absolutely.
All right, a merger, I'd merge the other small lot that I acquired from Dave Gilbert here. I'd merge that as additional footage that would bring me just under 1 acre. It would be like 0.93.
Steve, can you give me an idea of where this property is? I mean, I
Yes.
got 106, 107.
Yes, you have Granite State Glass.
Yep.
Heading towards Belmont. You got the gas station, and as you go up, I started cutting under the different administration. When Dean was in charge here, and the lady, I went in and asked permission to cut trees, and I started, and then
So there's some fill there now.
there is fill
Okay,
there.
I know where you're
Well,
at.
that,
Okay,
that's existing fill. That's what that whole sand mine,
I just wanted to get an idea of where we're at. I know where you're talking now. Thank you.
So the entrance for this would be off 107?
it would be off of 106. There's a curb cut already. I have a permit from the state for the curb cut already, Charlie. I'm getting there.
So Durkee Brook is behind.
Behind it. But before I go into the engineering, I've checked with the engineers. I could do a stormwater study and a drainage profile
Yeah.
that would not impact, not need any retaining walls. He could grade, and we could divert the water, any water, through a natural filtration, various ground.
And by merging this, it would then bring it up to what size acreage for the
By
entire-
merging it, it's, I think it's like just under well, maybe it has it here.
I think I feel like it's just shy of an acre.
Just shy,
Once they
point-
merge everything.
Right. It would be
What lots are you looking to
9-3. I would not, lot, map 473, lot 303-12.
To the right of it.
To the right of it. And then
Going south.
ironically,
Okay, yep.
there's another lot across the street I would probably give to the Roman Catholic bishop as additional land. That's lot 473, map 473, lot 303-22. So, before I spend any money, I'd like to know, do you think, is it reasonable to design this? Go through the departments, seek any permits I need from various departments? Or do I just put up a single-family home and move on?
I think it's reasonable in my mind.
Yeah, it's reasonable in mine,
As
because it
long,
is
as
commercial.
long as you were able to cross all your Ts and dot your Is with the,
With all the
With the
design
usual s-
features and everything?
right, and with all the agencies you have to deal with, personally, I don't see any issues.
Okay, my question is now, encroachment into the buffers. I'm going to be encroaching the buffers, the maximum point, I believe, 20 feet. So instead of having a 75-foot setback, I'm gonna end up with a 55-foot setback, right?
Well, again, I'm only speaking for myself, the rest of the board can jump in, but I would rely heavily on what the conservation
Okay.
Group says about
So
this.
my next
because
step
that's
would
their-
be to
that's
go-
their expertise.
My next step would be to what? Go to the conservation prior to design?
So, if you wanted to go to Conservation Commission for their feedback, we could add you to their agenda for feedback. It would be it'd be not non-binding, just like it is with this. You're just be getting that feedback, so you could get their input.
Yeah.
But if you submit, so if you decide and you feel comfortable with how the board's feeling, if you would like, you could submit, because if you're gonna be going in the wetland buffer, you're gonna have to do a wetland CUP anyways. Even, because if you disturb in the buffer, you still need that conditional use permit. You're still gonna have to go to conservation, they're gonna look at that and make sure you're doing all the mitigation. So, either way, you're gonna have to go to Conservation Commission.
So conservation is number one then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's fair. I don't want to waste anyone's time. If you guys think it's a reasonable request, then
Just like I said, get your Ts and
cross
cross
the
the
i's
Is,
and
all
dot
that
the
stuff.
i's. It could be a chicken farm.
It could be. yeah.
Whatever you want it to be.
You do single family and have chicken there now.
I could have 2 chickens.
Sell the chickens.
Let's focus here, kids.
You could probably sell and
Oh,
slaughter.
you know what? Personally, I'd like to see a nice architecturally pleasing design building instead of seeing a single-family home there. It's gonna be small. And,
Whatever you want, kids, whatever you want. Just get all that stuff crossed and we'll be willing to.
all right, fair enough.
Thank you very much.
Enough parking for our chickens over there.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for coming in.
You're
All
welcome.
right,
Thank you
hello.
for hearing.
Let's focus so we can get out of here. Other than, if you can do your report pretty quick?
Yep.
Okay, because after that,
Thank you.
I just soon forego the rest of everything else, because I like to be out here at 9:30, so unless something's really pressing.
Is there anything
Go ahead,
important?
Rob.
I don't have a whole lot of, we didn't get any bids on our site plan subdivision. Nobody thought we were offering enough money. $16,000 wasn't enough. So, guess we're not gonna get those rewritten. Short-term lodging, we already talked about in the meeting. We went out to bid for the downtown TIF for the landscaping project. We had 3 bidders come in and do site walks with us. We're looking for final submissions,
May 12th.
May 12th. Zoning board was really busy this month. We're looking at our master plan update. It's in the city manager's proposed budget. Our project manager position also made the cut to at least half a year funding within the manager's proposed budget, so we're hoping that goes good. If anybody would like to talk about that, what it is after the meeting, or come into the office and chit chat about our goals and and how everything aligns, I'd be more than happy to.
We're also presenting the budget on the 20th?
Was it? Was it the 20th?
20th.
Yeah. So, planning department's doing our budget presentation on Tuesday the 20th. If you want to come out and show support, if not, you don't have to. We're asking for money, obviously, so.
I'll pound on the table.
Thank you.
I do have a question going back to the 15,000 wasn't enough. Any idea what was enough?
I think like a 25,000 was probably more reasonable in our discussions with them. I was more planning of not spending that money, and I had asked for money for next year, and I was going to ask the city manager if we could perhaps roll that over to next year's.
What occurs to me is maybe we should look at some of the TIF funds that contribute.
I don't know. I would have to look into that. Just see.
Look into
Yeah.
the feasibility of it.
Yes, I can do that.
But we've done it for other things. The council has done it for other things.
I mean, I would love to take advantage. We'll just have to check the legality of whether we can do
But
it.
there's, what, 3 TIF districts?
Yes.
If each of them came up with $5,000, I mean, and most of them, some of them got some real money.
Yeah.
So,
I'll look into that.
We can look into
get back to me as quick as you can.
You got it.
Got it.
Okay,
I'll be in
without
anyway.
without any ado, Gail, hello? Without any further ado, I'd like to thank everybody for tonight. This was probably a more contentious meeting than we've had in some time. I think everybody did just wonderful. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
So made, is there a second?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
All right.
Thank you all very much. Thank you all.